Good evening, and welcome to the St. Charles Parish Council meeting on Monday, July 13th, 2026 at 6 p.m. in the council chambers in the parish courthouse. Please silence all electronic devices and remove all hats. This meeting is called to order with a prayer and a pledge of allegiance from Pastor Timothy Ryan Ogborn with West St. Charles Baptist Church in Boutique.
Let's pray together. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day that you have made. We come before you today reminded that all authority and wisdom ultimately comes from you. Thank you for this community here, St. Charles Parish, its members, and for these leaders who have stepped forward to serve. Father, you require us to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with you, and we ask that this council be guided by these principles as they make decisions that affect the lives of many. May justice be upheld, fairness be pursued, and compassion be at the heart of every discussion. But we ask that you help to promote what is good and restrain that which is evil. We pray for wisdom and discernment for these leaders as they seek to serve the people in this community with integrity. Let them be voices for those who have none, advocates for those in need, and stewards of the resources that you have entrusted to them. Father, we lift up the vulnerable in this community, and may this council seek to provide ways for them, reflecting your heart, which is for the least of these, just as Jesus has taught us. Bless this meeting with unity, respect, and a spirit of cooperation. Where there are differences, let there also be understanding. And where there are challenges, grant us solutions. Above all, may the work done here today honor you and serve the people of St. Charles Parish well. We ask this in the name of Jesus and for his sake. Amen.
Amen.
If you would, let us pledge allegiance to the flag. Attention, salute, pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Ryan. Approval of minutes, regular meeting, June 15th, 2026. A motion and a second are needed to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of June 15th, 2026. We have a motion by Mr. Brouillet and a second by Ms. O'Daniels. Please cast your vote. And that passes unanimously. Special business, proclamations, canvass, returns, etc. 2026-0198 in recognition, Barbara Gutierrez Bosworth, St. Charles Parish Library. Ms. Fonseca.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Parish of St. Charles, July 13th, 2026. We, the members of the St. Charles Parish Council and the Parish President, do hereby recognize and appreciate your years of dedicated public service as an employee of the St. Charles Parish Library. Barbara Gutierrez Bosworth, from September 24th, 1992 through May 29th, 2026. Ms. Bosworth is here to accept. Come up to the microphone. No? Okay. All right. Congratulations. Enjoy your retirement.
Thank you, Ms. Bosworth. Next, 2026-0199, in memoriam, Leon C. Sonny Vial III. Mr. Jewell.
Thank you, Chairman. The Parish of St. Charles, in memoriam, whereas on May 9th, 2026, Almighty God, in his infinite wisdom, saw fit to call from amongst us one of his most worthy servants, Leon C. Sonny Vial III. And whereas Mr. Vial was born to parents Leon C. Vial Jr., Jesse Lucille Lowe Vial, and was the brother of Dr. David Jerry Vial. He was devoted to his family, his wife of 69 years, Mary Janet Hargrove Vial, and his children, Leon C. Vial IV, Mary Janet Nanette Vial, Thomas Edward Vial, and John Lowe Vial. And whereas Mr. Vial was a lifelong resident of St. Charles Parish, where he graduated from Hawnville High School after graduating from Southwestern University, earning a Bachelor of Science degree in geology. He proudly served in the United States Air Force, where he became a jet fighter pilot, a flight commander, flying the North American F-86 Sabre, the United States Air Force's first swept-wing fighter jet. And whereas Mr. Vial later attended Tulane University Law School and began a long and honorable legal career spanning 62 years. He served for 23 years as parish attorney for St. Charles Parish Police Jury and the St. Charles Parish Council, and 3 parish presidents. And whereas Mr. Vial exemplified integrity, honor, and dedication to his legal profession and was known for his cordial demeanor, treating everyone with dignity and respect, with a deep commitment to always helping those in need. And whereas on behalf of the citizens of St. Charles Parish, the Parish Council, and the Parish President, we proudly posthumously honor Leon C. Sonny Vial III for his exceptional service to our parish and his legacy as a devoted and loving family man. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the members of the St. Charles Parish Council and the Parish President, duly assembled on this 13th day of July, 2026, do hereby express our sincere sympathy to the family of Mr. Leon C. Vial III, July 10th, 1929 to May 9th, 2026. Be it further resolved that a page in the official minute book of the St. Charles Parish Council be set aside to record this memoriam, and when this meeting is adjourned, it shall be done in memory of Mr. Leon C. Sonny Vial III. May he rest in peace. I think we have family members here who want to come up.
Big family, huh? Thank you.
Good to see you, man. Hey, how are you? Hey, Princess.
There's a bunch of folks here. Bunch. And I'm deaf. Thank you, VL family. Let's put on my CNI dogs here.
Point at you.
Okay, reports, finance and administrative activities. 2026-0200, Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, Hurricane Preparedness. That's Mr. Jason Toste to report. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Parish Council, President Jewell. Here this evening to review what our department has accomplished over the past year, where we are today, and how we're preparing for the future. One of the easiest ways to track the activities in the Emergency Operations Center is really just to look at the numbers in our station log and how many entries we've had over a year. In 2025, we had 9,543 log entries. So far, we're outpacing that. For 2026, we've had 6,790 entries so far this year. And really, we could attribute that to when we have large incidents in the parish. And with that amount of activity or the uptick in activity, last year for us was relatively a slow year for emergencies. So of course, I'll tell you a little bit about that more. But certainly on pace to exceed that for 2026. Unusual events for us, these are incidents that are really out of the ordinary but require monitoring and coordination. Really no impact to the public happening. And none expecting. We break that down into different categories, whether it's industrial, natural, homeland security, drone detection, and we also have a miscellaneous category for things that don't fall within any of those other sections. Last year we had 227 unusual events. Again, that's our numbers for that remain pretty stable when we go back and look at. As long as we've been keeping electronic records, we'll average between 225 and 300 unusual events a year. Some of the examples of some of those events would be hazardous materials events, severe weather, large fire events, transportation accidents, infrastructure problems. Larger incidents last year, of course, we only had one tornado warning in 2025, and then we also had the big snowstorm January. That happened January 19th through 21st of 25. It started out as a site area emergency, escalated to a general emergency, so that's why you see two numbers up there. One thing I think that's more important, of course, we remember those events, they were significant for us, but when you look up here, you don't notice any industrial events of the alert level, site area emergency, or general emergency. That's a big kudos to our industrial facilities for 2025. It just goes to show how responsible they are operating, how safe they are operating here. That's not a record. That's actually happened twice before in our records. We went back and researched it to see. So we had 2 other years where we've actually had that happen. But that's a good year where we're not having anything industrial that even threatens to go outside the fence line where we're having to take protective action. So big shout out to our industrial facilities. For us, preparedness doesn't start when there's an emergency. That's really what we do every day is prepare for emergencies, practice for emergencies. We participate in a lot of emergency exercises. Last year we participated in 22 different exercises. Just to point out one big one, of course, every other year we have our biannual exercise with the nuclear power plant for a score where FEMA comes in and evaluates our ability to respond to a radiological emergency at the plant. We're actually graded on that. It's a very long feedback process, and I'm proud to say that again last year we went through the exercise and had no major findings from FEMA on our performance with that. So, of course, we are preparing for other things. Of course, hurricane exercises every year. We had a large active shooter exercise that Shell put on. It was good. All of the emergency responders. It was a full-scale exercise where you actually had deputies and firemen, all our responders, all of our partner agencies out there acting as if they were responding to an active shooter exercise at the plant. Very good training for everyone with that. But all of our exercises aren't large. We also had a couple in-parish exercises where we practice with our water plant in case there's as if there was a chlorine release at one of the water plants, and then we also practiced with an emergency exercise with animal control last year. In addition to our exercises, we also do a lot of training in the EOC. We really try to balance traditional emergency management training and then also look at emerging threats. Our examples of some of our traditional emergency management training would be incident command training, hazardous materials training, and then we're also doing training on things like debris monitoring following a hurricane. But emerging threats, we're looking at AI and how that could benefit us in our day-to-day work. And then, of course, drone threats is another training we had last year for that. But overall, we had 47 different trainings that we participated in or hosted at the EOC. So very proud of that amount of training that we're doing with our staff. That's paying off for us. So there's actually a metric that we could take away from all the trainings that we're doing is that our staff is getting certified in emergency management. So we have a Louisiana Emergency Management Certification Program through the Louisiana Emergency Preparedness Association. That is not a gimme certificate. It really combines your training, your experience, and then your professional contributions that you're making in emergency management. So you can't just apply and get it. You have to prove that you've done all of these things, and then you have to take an exam at the conclusion of your application period to get this training. So for us, more than half of our staff is currently certified. My goal was probably at the end of this year, beginning of next year, that all of our staff members will have that emergency management certification. Just tell you a little bit more about this really quickly. The LEMB certification and the LEM Pro, those are directly the same as what the International Association of Emergency Managers requires for AEM or CEM. So if you have a LEMB or LEM Pro, you could pretty much just take your application and transfer it over to them, take their exam, and obtain those certifications as well. So really good. Really proud of our staff there and that they're taking these trainings and then also meeting all of these other qualifications to obtain those certifications. Public notifications, I talked about this last year, and I really, maybe sort of begged for more people to sign up for emergency notifications. When you look at our numbers, we have 18,608 households in St. Charles Parish. Currently have a little more than half of those numbers signed up on our emergency notification. I would like to think that one person in every household is getting our notifications, but I don't honestly think that that's the case. We really want people to sign up. We really want our notifications to get out there when we have emergencies. It's the best way. It's the future of notification. It's really where everything is going. Most communities rely solely on this. Of course, we also have our siren system. But last year we sent out 146 notifications, 29 of those were severe weather events. Again, as with our log entries, as I reported earlier, we're way ahead this year on notifications. So far this year, only being in July, we had 122 notifications, and 42 of those are for severe weather event. But for people who want to sign up, it's very easy. Go to the parish website, go to our departmental web section in there, and then you could sign up to receive our alerts. I'll switch over to our hurricane preparedness. Begin talking a little bit about last year. So last year predicted we had 17 named storms, 13 in actuality. 9 hurricanes were expected. We had 5 and 4 hurricane major hurricanes were predicted, and there was 4. So they hit that one number right on. Last year we were in a La Nina transitioning into neutral, and that came to be pretty busy season overall with 13 named storms. This is just a graphical depiction. Really nothing in the Gulf other than Tropical Storm Barry last June. My point of showing this slide is that when you think that you're totally protected from a storm, even for Tropical Storm Barry, that really pushed us to take action. Of course, we had to put sandbags up the bayou and the Zalmans, and if you look how far away that storm was in the Southwest Gulf, that tidal situation in the Zalmans has become a lot worse since Hurricane Ida. We're noticing that we're having to, monitor those levels under the train bridge and up the bayou and the Zalmans more and more. I'd say for the first part of my career, it was not that way. A lot more tidal influence in that the Zalmans area. Looking at this year, so predicted storms, they're saying 13 named storms this year, 6 hurricanes, 2 major hurricanes. Those numbers are low because of the El Nino, and we're expected to get into the super El Nino as we go into the winter. That forecast was actually updated about 2 weeks ago. They've reduced those numbers even more, saying 9 named storms, 4 hurricanes, and 2 major hurricanes is their outlook now. What I'll say about a seasonal outlook, it really kind of gives you a good picture of the activity in the entire Atlantic basin, but it doesn't tell you where a storm's going to go, where landfall is going to be, or what the impacts are. We've already seen that this year. Despite all the talk, pre-hurricane season, really, the talk leads people to think that it's going to be a nothing year, super El Nino, you don't have anything to worry about. But of course, we understand that we will. Looking at overall, just a reminder of these numbers, we understand that neutral is certainly our busiest years, La Nina falling a little bit below that, and El Nino being our least impacted years. Just a reminder that if you look back to 1998, we had Tropical Storm Francis, which was a severe flooding event for St. Charles Parish. Tropical Storm Hermine happened that same year, 1998. You jump up to 2001, where we had Tropical Storm Allison, was also another extreme flood year. Those were all El Nino seasons. And something we notice as a trend is during those El Nino seasons, what you tend to get is very disorganized tropical storms, which tend to produce a lot of rainfall flooding, which we have problems with. So just because it's not a major hurricane doesn't mean we can't have significant impacts. And of course, we saw that just a few weeks ago with Tropical Storm Arthur, that it doesn't even have to be a named storm. It could be a weakening tropical system that we really can't let our guard down when it comes to that. One more view of El Nino seasons. If you look at this is all a Gulf, historically, Gulf landfalling hurricanes that we've had during El Nino seasons. Looking at this picture, it really hard to say that El Nino years aren't very busy based on that amount of activity. So for us, no matter what the pattern is, we'll always do the same level of preparation for hurricane season. This year we participated in the statewide regional functional exercise back in April. We had our Region 3 hurricane coordination exercise. That's an exercise with us, our state partners, and our 5 surrounding parishes. We did that in June. We had our in-parish coordination meeting, which is all of our parish departments, all the other governmental agencies, and our utilities. National Guard all participate in that. We had that at the end of May. Just last week, we met with our home health and nursing homes to make sure that we're all prepared and know what the expectations are leading into hurricane season this year. And then earlier in June, we also did our full-scale pod exercise where we simulate distributing commodities at the bridge park. So these are the hurricane names. Of course, we've already had Tropical Storm Arthur. We don't want to hear about that a whole lot anymore, but we'll move on, and we are as prepared as we can be as we go into hurricane season. So I just ask residents, stay informed, sign up for our emergency alert system, and also we'll put out information on all of these different methods. We still have Cox Cable Channel 6, Parish website, Facebook, and all of those methods. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Taste.
Thank you.
Item 2026-0201, Contract Monitor, Mr. Justin Tassin.
Good evening, members of the council, Parish President Jewell. I'm here to talk about everything that's occurred in contract monitoring since our last meeting. On the agenda, we're going to talk about River Burge contract, the road lighting contract, mosquito control, and then emergency storm debris removal. So with River Burge, we service approximately 37,000 carts per week with less than a 1% verifiable complaint ratio. And usually the complaints only are like, leaks or trucks breaking down or something like that, where we get on it immediately and wrap that up. There's nothing really with trash that we verify as a complaint that we can't take care of. We sustained a newly created tracking method in our response times with River Birch. I started making Excel sheets to send them every week with logs for trash cans, to where people aren't waiting months for these trash cans, or debris piles where people aren't waiting for these debris piles to be picked up for months. Trash Bash this year was a little bit less turnout than usual, but we're hoping for a bigger turnout next year. We had 364 volunteers. We collected 300 bags of trash and covered over 215 miles of roadway. That's not including our parks, especially in Luling, in schools in Norco and Destrehan, that we also picked up around. So for road lighting, we completed a Parish Lodge street light audit with planning and zoning, where they actually were able to identify 698 street lights between parish-owned street lights and energy-owned street lights. And energy really jumped on them really quickly, as opposed to normal with them. So that's been great. That was a 30% increase because of this audit. Total, we had 850, and that's including ones that we get called for or that I see on my own surveys when I go out. We completed work on existing projects, mainly the Hale-Boggs Bridge, which I got a lot of calls from people that were working on for the parish for Tropical Storm Arthur, and they were saying it was a huge deal where they could actually see on that bridge because we were able to get the lights to LEDs. And I also got plenty calls from residents, so I'm sure you all have as well, praising our work on that. I'm really proud that I've got that done. The high mast lighting, we worked on those. We have one left that we have to do. It's scheduled for October. It's a big process with those. We have to get a crane out there and all these things, but it will be done this year. And we got the historical lights up in Destrehan. We got the banners up. They're all working. I believe we have a picture with that tomorrow. So happy to have got that done. We researched some new projects. Parish President Jewell asked me to also make the lights on 310 past the bridge LEDs. So we've done that. We were having a problem with the grass crews hitting the e-box that powers those. So we're getting that moved. And then we're going to add some lights there as well, which will be LEDs. So a little more coverage out there. We were looking at the spillway bridge lighting. Instead of having the lights on one side of the bridge, having them in the middle. We don't know if it's feasible yet. We're still working on it. If it is feasible, we're going to get it done. And then, the new tracking system, which all of you know about, I send y'all the logs every month with that. And I'm sure after the audit, it seems like it's not much on those, which is actually a good thing. The audit did take care of a lot of these lights. With parish-owned street lights, we save $1,000 per month with that. Just in warranty work, where, we're not going back and fixing things that are still under warranty. Before, I believe we were. And then with energy, we're not saving money, but we're saving time, which is money. So those have been really successful. Mosquito control is very straightforward, very low maintenance contract. Over 6,100 miles and 260,000 acres were sprayed. 112 service calls were completed for events and parties and things like that. We had over 14,000 aerial acres that were sprayed. And like I said, they're very low maintenance. We barely have to keep up with them. They run themselves, really. For emergency storm debris removal and disposal, we have 5 emergency debris sites we've identified through DEQ. We have those ready to go in the event of an emergency. I communicate with GOSEP and DEQ regularly just to make sure that we're ready and we stay sharp on these things. We've attended multiple meetings with our new debris monitor. That's Thompson. They seem to be really good. They have a lot of capabilities that we didn't have before as far as tracking where they are and things like that. And we added the waterway clearance to DRC's contract. So I think that'll be very helpful. With anything in our waterways, we'll be able to take care of that. I plan to attend the annual FEMA and GOSEP class in Tangipahoa this year. I have to get with the rep at GOSEP, find out exactly when that is. I haven't heard from him yet about that, but I attend that yearly, and that just keeps us sharp and keeps us ready in case there is some sort of emergency. That's all I have. I'm here to answer any questions you all may have.
Mr. Jewell?
Thank you, Chairman. Just a comment. Want to remind the council on the Norco Spillway Bridge lighting. We did receive a $250,000 appropriation from the state that Senator Greg Miller was able to secure for us that we can use towards feasibility and design for that purpose of the Spillway Bridge lighting.
Thank you, Mr. Jewell. Mr. Fisher?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Justin, thank you. Fantastic job. Every time I pick up the phone and call you, send you something, you're right on top of it. The debris are good, the lightings. It seems like it's overnight. Sometimes it happens. So keep up doing what you're doing. The tracking's awesome. Our residents appreciate it. Like I said, when they can see a light change similar to the ones that on Evangeline, that was overnight. So
Yes, sir.
real good thing. River Birch is doing a great job. Tell them same thing. So we want to make sure of that. So just overall, I hope you don't have to use any of those sites.
Same.
We all want to do that, but thank you for getting that all set up and done. So again, kudos to you and your department.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Mr. Tassin, I know it was a trivial thing I called you about earlier in the week, and
Yes,
I don't
sir.
even know who called me, but
Yes,
you
sir.
got right on it. The little flags had fallen off the River Road, the historical flags, and you guys were able to take care of that. So I want to thank you. It's just one of the many things that you guys do. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Tassin. All right, 2026-0202, Parish President remarks and reports. Mr. Jewell.
Thank you, Chairman. Want to kind of back up. I know it's been a while since we had our last council meeting, but give you a readout from Tropical Storm Arthur. Kind of give you somewhat of a timeline of our operations before, during, and after the storm. Before the storm, obviously, we put out information regarding sandbags. We pumped down our drainage system. We checked our watersheds and canals, did pump station inspections, and we did some public messaging through EOC. Leading up to it, we did meet with EOC and stated EOC during the duration of the storm. But obviously, coming into it, if we can go to the next slide, coming into it, National Weather Service estimated that St. Charles Parish would receive about 2 to 3 inches of rain, with our worst case scenario of rain from 6 to 8 inches of rain starting Wednesday through Saturday. Instead, as you all know now, we received that worst case scenario within about 3 hours of the storm. In addition to that, we received 8 tornado warnings, which were issued between 2:30 a.m. and 6 a.m. on the morning of June 18th. Along with flash flood and severe thunderstorm warnings. And we were thankful that there was no damage due to tornadic activity that was seen in some of the other parishes, especially in Jefferson and Lafourche. You can see on the side there of the screen, those are all the warnings that came through. So when Jason talks about 2025 having 1 tornado warning to having 8 of them in about a 3.5 hour period, it was definitely a wild ride that night, and I want to commend all of our employees who were out during all of that time responding to resident complaints and any issues that came up. All right, we'll go to the next slide. This was a regional storm. You can see some of the regional rainfall rates and just pictures from other parishes. You can see Kenner there. You can see the airport, Jefferson Parish, and I think one of those might be from St. Tammany as well. There was flooding in Terrebonne and Lafourche Parish as well. So if you go to the next slide, you can see this is a little bit more zoomed in on St. Charles Parish, which shows our rainfall totals. Again, anywhere from 6 to 9 inches, or close to 9 inches going on. Some residents within the parish reported as high as 10.5 inches to me. Obviously, we know there are little pockets inside of these rain events where there is more rain, but on average, you can see that through that purple streak there, that's the rain that we received. Just to put that into perspective, that 8+ inches in 3 hours is well beyond the design capabilities of the parish's drainage system, which is a 10-year drainage system. And to put that into perspective, that 3-hour event for a 10-year system would be 4.81 inches, and we received almost double that in some cases here. So, of course, the rain was falling at a lot faster rate than the culverts in front of our homes or the canals or pump stations could handle, and that did lead to some flooding. We'll go to the next slide there. This is pump station data that shows rainfall totals. As you can see, some of those pump stations aren't registering. We put them all in there, but it looks like we're going to have to go back to some of our pump stations and repair the rain gauges. But you can see there's a lot of consistency based off of that. And I'm sorry, with like 56 pump stations, we are starting to run out of colors to how to color code those. We'll go to the next slide. This just shows the flooding, but want to go back real quick just to show kind of where we are 2025 to 2026. So 2025, from June 1st to July 6th, we saw 3.5 inches of rain. In 2026, in that same time period, 17.3 inches of rain. Oak Street pump station, we saw 12.8 inches of rain last year, 21 inches of rain this year. Destrehan 2, 11.62 inches of rain last year, 20 inches of rain this year. In some portions of the area, of the parish, we were nearing that 100%, that 100-year rainfall event. And that doesn't mean that it can happen or that it happens once every 100 years. It just means it has a 1% chance of happening in any given year. Going to the flooding impact, this is a map of the parish where you can see that flooding. We were trying to do an overlay of that Viper radar or those accumulation totals, but it roughly lines up exactly with that heaviest rain band in the middle of the storm. 106 flooded homes. Again, we have 18,600 structures in the parish. Our goal is to have 0 flooded homes. But we did see flooded homes, and I'm going to tell you, a lot of people reach out to me and say they saw rain in places, or they saw water in their yard when they've never seen it before. I'm going to be right there with you. I saw water in places that I've never seen it before either. It was a lot of rain, and in those situations, when I prepare and I work with Public Works and Jason's office to prepare for a storm, we check our watersheds. We try to make sure everything's as clean as possible. We try to get our residents to check our watersheds and report any issues to us. But when we get into a rainstorm situation like that, people ask me, what do you do? The only thing I can do is get on my knees and pray to God that it stops raining. And that's what I was doing during a portion of this event because, again, our design system is for a 10-year rain event. We did damage assessments. That's where we came up with these structures. And want to just mention that as a part of this too, we're just showing flooded structures here. We have certain designations. We have minor flooding, major flooding, and affected. So if you get water into like a secondary structure or your garage, a non-living portion of your garage, that's considered affected. If you get flooding inside your home, that's considered minor. And if that flooding gets to, about your electrical sockets, that is considered major flooding. We did not have anybody considered major and all that data that was collected was sent to the state to be counted for the state's threshold for damage. Okay, we'll go next. This is just our state provided information about contractors, and if you have a contractor repairing your home, we did retroactively declare an emergency when the state was going after individual assistance from the federal government. Again, our damages were counted as a part of that individual assistance, or as a part of the total damage assessment threshold. And I'm going to read a note here, that we have for after our request from GOSEP for IA. Based on FEMA's review of St. Charles Parish, St. Charles Parish did not qualify for individual assistance. FEMA evaluates IA eligibility using a variety of factors, including the number and severity of damaged residences, the concentration of damage, whether affected homes are insured or uninsured, the financial impact on survivors, and other socioeconomic factors. While St. Charles Parish experienced significant impacts from Tropical Storm Arthur, the parish did not have residences that met FEMA's threshold for major or destroyed damage classifications, which are heavily weighted in the IA eligibility determination. Additionally, FEMA considered the overall impact of the disaster using established evaluation criteria and determined that the damages did not warrant an individual assistance declaration. Initially, it also appeared that neither the state of Louisiana nor St. Charles Parish would meet the damage thresholds to qualify for public assistance. However, following delayed flooding in Point Capee and Avoyles Parish, FEMA extended the incident period for public assistance consideration. The extended incident period allows additional eligible damages to be included in the statewide assessment. So, in short, that just means any of the money for public assistance, any of the money that the parish spent to prepare for the storm, and money spent during and after the storm, we will be submitting to the federal government to be reimbursed back to us. Also wanted to mention, as kind of like an insult to injury, during the 8 tornado warnings and the 9 inches of rain that fell in 3 hours, we were experiencing a Verizon issue, which was making communication rather tough. I had a hard time communicating and making phone calls to some of the council members as well. So we worked through all that. Any pump station that we lost communication with, we physically sent somebody out to that pump station to verify operations. And it was an odd thing. We did not lose communication with all pump stations. And just on the note of pump stations, I want to take the opportunity to once again try to educate the public and use this opportunity to explain how our pump stations work. I know we see a lot of times, City of New Orleans, you see right now they had human error at one of their pump stations over this recent weekend rainfall event. Our pump stations are operated off of SCADA and telemetry. So we have the ability to remotely monitor all of our pump stations. And what that means is we can see them in a computer screen at EOC. And during all these events, we have someone physically monitoring those pump stations. Before the event, we pump down. We actually flip a button on SCADA, which brings us down to our emergency levels. Emergency levels are the lowest possible depth that we can pump down our pump stations before we actually start cavitating and damaging our pumps. What we do while we're kind of in emergency mode is as soon as we get above that emergency level, those pumps kick on and try to maintain emergency levels. So instead of pumping down, waiting for the water to come up to our normal start levels, we're pumping down and trying to maintain those emergency levels. In short, we're running the pump stations as aggressively as possible during those rain events and trying to hold that lowest level possible. It's clear from the pump station data that when the rain really started coming down, didn't matter how many pumps were running, because we were just being outpaced by the amount of water getting to those pump stations. So when people say they didn't turn the pumps on or are the pumps running, That is not how our system works, and it's not how it has worked for probably a decade or more. Obviously, we try to make sure that all of the pumps are operational. We do a lot of checks. We've been doing a lot of heavy maintenance to our pump stations. But during storms, you have 56 pump stations, an average of 3 or 4 pumps per station. You have about 200 total individual pumps parish-wide. There are going to be issues. So when we get issues, we can see those issues pop up on our SCADA and telemetry, and we respond accordingly and go and repair those situations. So I'm not going to say that we didn't have our fair share of issues, but we had probably a 97, 98% success rate when it came to all of our pumps being fully operational and running during the duration of the storm. And I'll tell you, the worst issue we had was at Ellington Pump Station, where we believe we had a lightning strike. And that forced Ellington Pump Station to come down. It was on generator, so it was under load. It came down. It was down for about 25 minutes until we restarted it back up. Thank God we had Cousins Pump Station there to kind of pull the weight of that. Other than that, looking forward, we'll go to the next slide. We'll talk about some of our projects that are under construction right now. Munns Pump Station number 1, structural components have been completed, including the concrete foundation, pump station structure, permanent sheet pile, wall, the wing walls, levee crown bridge, and piping supports. The project remains on track for an estimated completion date of 2026. We'll go to Munns number 2. At Munns number 2 pumping station, crews have completed the concrete foundation and permanent sheet pile wall. Construction of the levee crown bridge is nearing completion. Work on the piping supports is also progressing. The project is currently estimated to be completed in January of 2027. It has moved up 1 month as far as its completion date. Again, I mentioned at one of our previous council meetings that because all of our materials were ordered at the same time, we have the same contractor building both. That's causing Munns number 2 to catch up to Munns number 1, which we are not complaining about. Looking at the Ormond CN Jack and Bore project, crews have completed the sheet pile installation for the Site 1 receiving pit and partially completed the Site 2 receiving pit while continuing work on the Site 2 jacking pit and other site tasks, including the maintenance of drainage flow. If the schedule holds, the first bore is expected to begin in the second week of August. Once boring starts, CN Railroad requires the work to continue nonstop until the receiving pit is reached. Each 54-inch bore is expected to take 24 hours to complete. In short, they're going to be working through the night to make sure that those get in and get across that railroad track. Okay, Murray Hill and Destrehan Drive. Contractor is working on adjusting the catch basin tops and pouring concrete curbs. The next step will be the concrete walks and drives, head walls and outfalls, mailboxes, concrete trench drain, asphalt mill and overlay, as well as seeding and fertilizing. The project is intended to be completed by September 1st. We'll go over to Primrose Canal on the West Bank. Work to address the conveyance and stabilize the Primrose Canal is ongoing, but we are currently dealing with a stalled crane issue, and so the contractor is expected to get that completed before the end of the summer, and they've been working to get the crane back up and running. They might have actually gotten that done by now. All right, Sugar House Road. Wanted to mention this is actually an in-house project, but it's been some time coming, and I think it's a really important one. The Sugar House Road Canal takes a tremendous amount of water from Old Luling and drains it to the 80 Arpin pump station. It's a little bit hard to see on the screen, but you can see some pin marks. And at each of those locations was a restriction that was identified actually by Bayer when they completed a drainage study. As a part of their drainage study, they actually installed 2 sluice gates that restricts the flow of their water into the Sugar House Road Canal. I know residents had reached out to myself and to Councilwoman Fonseca, who reached out to me to make sure that that sluice gate is closed. We did have an issue with it being open slightly more than it was supposed to be, so we have gone back and corrected that situation and locked it in place. But further down, where you see those two pins in the southern side, this is what the canal dropped down to, like two, which I think, Miles, do you remember what those are, 60-inch or 48-inch culverts?
I believe so, and we upgraded them to much larger box culverts.
So we'll go to the next slide. This is the work, that middle section right there is one that's been completed, and you can see to the left, that's one that's currently under construction, and then all the way to the right, that's at 4th Street in Sugar House, and that one has been completed recently. So we are de-bottlenecking, as Walter would say, several spots in that canal, and the goal of this is to make sure we can keep the Sugar House Road Canal within its banks. When it leaves its banks, it runs down Post Street, it runs down, I think, Corville, and a few other streets, which adds water into that neighborhood, which then has to drain, majority of the time, has to drain through the Ellington and Milling Street ditch, which is already overburdened. This council approved a survey, which I think might be completed by now, for us to make an improvement to the outfall leaving the Milling Street ditch, and will give us some good information on how to make an improvement and get that water to the 80 Arpin Canal. 80 Arpin Canal. We're also looking at potentially some retention near the St. Anthony Church that could be also beneficial to us as well. All right. Let's see. Sales tax. Sales taxes were up again in May, just over $280,000 from last May. To date, sales taxes are up 6% higher year over year, or nearly $1.25 million higher for the first 5 months of this year versus 2025. I also want to mention, since we just got out of June, the parish did submit its audit that you guys will be briefed on later this year. So that went out, I think, around June 29th, June 30th, Grant. So that is completed as well. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Jewell. We have some council questions here. Mr. Brouillet.
Yes, do we have an update on the crane situation? I know it's been at least 3 weeks or so that it's been down.
Yeah, they had an engine problem with that. They were ordering the parts. They were supposed to have them in this Friday and put them in. They should be getting that crane back up and running. It was supposed to be by the end of this weekend. I think with the rain and everything, I think they had a little more trouble getting to that, but it should be very shortly.
Okay, and that's not going to cause us to pay any extra because of extended days or anything?
No, that's on them.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brouillet. Ms. Fonseca.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to thank Parish President Jewell and his staff for the work that y'all did for Tropical Storm Arthur, because Parish President Jewell and I had conversations where if this same storm had happened in 2020, we may have had quite a few more homes that flooded, and we didn't. So that's a tribute to a lot of the work that's been done over the past 7 years. And I think this could have been a lot worse than what it actually was. And the areas that I was notified that there were issues were addressed really quickly, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, just a note on that. We did receive a lot of information from residents, especially in areas where we made improvements, that as soon as the rain slacked up, the water went down very quickly. Now, I know that wasn't the case all over, especially in St. Rose, the Fairfield and Oakland area. That water stayed up for a long time. I actually have a picture that I should have included in this report of one of our pumps. I think it was Riverbend pump number 2, sitting basically in a lake of water, and it's pumping, but it's literally just pumping itself, waiting for the pump station downstream from it to catch up. So it's clear that we do have a lot of work to do. We have made some upgrades in certain portions of St. Rose that have seen some improvement. We've got more work to do there. But most of the areas where work has been completed, the water went down much quicker. And so we were glad to see that. It's no consolation for anybody who got water in their home. But our goal, again, between our capital improvements program, between the home elevation program, is to get our flooding down to zero.
Thank you, Ms. Feinsick. And Ms. Wilson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Question in reference to the flooding impact. So this is stating that only 106 homes flooded.
From the information that was reported to the parish,
Okay,
and if there may be a house that you know of in your district that flooded, we can only go off of people who report to us, and then Michael's team goes out and verifies. We do have people who don't report to us, and we do see that sometimes people who do report to us, maybe not over exaggerated, but it isn't in the living portion of their home. It might be in a secondary structure or have touched the slab, but we know it's not a perfect number by any means. We take that number and compare it to our previous events, and we try to track that way based off of who reports to us. But by no means do we claim that it is a full comprehensive list, because if they don't report it to us, we have no way to go out and verify one way or the other.
okay. And one other question. Luling Estate, where does their water flow?
That would be pumped by 80 ARPAN. So it goes to the 80 ARPAN pump station, along with everything from, well, the easiest way to say it would be Sugar House Road, and at a certain point all the way to Dufferin Parkway in the sugarcane field. When the sugarcane field gets high enough, at a certain point it comes under 310 and goes to 80 ARPAN. We have a recirculation issue there that I'm working with Miles and Brandon on, and if we can stop that recirculation, that could help prevent some water from coming that way. But Old Luling and that Luling area, the biggest issue is that when water gets that high enough, 80 ARPAN starts recirculating, and it just has too much water to handle. And so but 80 ARPAN pump station is where it all goes.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Ms. O'Daniels?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I said it's pretty obvious from this list that St. Rose here has quite a huge impact from this particular storm. And I just wanted to double check, because we are talking about a large project in Munce, and Munce isn't represented here. Did they have any flooded homes in Munce?
We don't have the presentation up, but if you went back to the presentation,
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Munce was not, when you look at that band of rain, it's in your,
It wasn't
it's in your
in
packet. They were on the outer edge.
Right.
I fully believe that if they were in there, they would have had some flooded
Very
homes.
severe.
I think that when those two pump stations are done, because Munce has received a good bit of flooding from certain different storms, I believe when those two pump stations are done, Munce would be able to handle a storm like that. And again, we are designed for a 10-year rain event. That's the culverts, the canals, the pump stations. When we design our improvements, we're designing for a 25-year rain event. So we are upgrading our standard. When you see what we're doing in Munce, what we're doing for design in St. Rose and in Norco at Engineers, we are designing for a 25-year pumping station because that allows us, that's kind of the heart of your drainage system, and then that allows us to work backwards from there. We've been doing a lot of work updating and upsizing culverts across the parish, under people's driveways and under roads. But that's we're building to a 25-year system for everything that we move forward on. And if someone wanted to come and build a new subdivision in the parish, not only are they required to build to a 25-year storm, they're also required to have no net increase in runoff through retention or detention.
So basically what you're saying is there's a swath of rain, and Munce dodged the bullet this time. But
Yeah.
they've been suffering as well with large amounts of flooding. So it just depends on who gets
Yeah.
hit when.
Yeah, Norco, pretty much everybody on the eastern side of the parish, and if you look where it came through, it really caught the vast majority of the parish. I would say as far as rainfall totals go, Mimosa got it probably the worst. St. Rose wasn't that far behind. Destrehan wasn't that far behind either. And I just thank God we weren't, where was it, in Point Capee? What's the,
And Boyles.
yeah,
Yeah.
in Avoyles, yeah.
Royals Parish.
You know,
Ugh.
it's, what can you do? That's a parish that isn't very populated, at least in the portion of the parish that got hit. And water just had nowhere to go.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Mr. Jewell, I was under perhaps a mistaken impression from the past that when the railroad allows you to put some culverts underneath, like the Jack and Bores over there in Ormond, that they insist that you go with a 100-year storm as a criteria. I don't know if that's consistent through all the different railroads, but can you clarify that? Either that or Mr.
Yes. So when I say we're designing for 25-year, anything that we would design that would go into the railroad, we're doing at a 100-year rain rate event. It's what the railroad requires. It's what we want too. I mean, if you're going to go in and do a project and you're going to get in the railroad, you might as well get as much capacity as you can. Same thing if we are going to ever have to cross, a highway, whether it's airline highway or anything else like that.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they require a 100-year.
Major crossings are 100 year.
Any major crossing is 100-year.
And I would can I add something, Matt, on that? When we look at designs, we actually check a 100-year storm for every design we do, even though the design standard, as Matt said, that we're using now is a 25-year storm, which we think is appropriate considering the rain that we get here. We also run a 100-year storm event to make sure that it's not hitting any houses that we can, because we don't want the water going in people's houses. The 25-year storm stays in our pipes, and maybe a little bit of flooding in a road, minor flooding in a road. The 100-year storm we look at to make sure that it's not going in homes.
Thank you, Mr. Bingham and Mr. Jewell. Ms. Wilson again?
Yes. One other question in reference to the railroads. So given that we have this new subdivision that's coming in Hornville, is there any work that's going to be done? Because right now with the rain and the subdivision is not even there yet, the water is getting close to homes now. So what's the work with the railroads?
Yeah, so as you know, that approved subdivision is doing retention for not only their subdivision, but I would call that the eastern side of Courthouse Lane. So all of the water that gets caught in the rear of Courthouse Lane on the eastern side, they're catching that water and retaining it, slowing it down. We are in the process of, I think Andre or Miles is negotiating an engineering contract that will encompass both Low Street and Bamboo, as well as Courthouse Lane, those two different sites to do design work, to do Jack and Bores. We know that Union Pacific is also coming in and doing some railroad activity. They're doing some work. They're actually elevating the railroad 3 inches from here to Livonia, even past here. And they're going to be redoing crossings. We are trying to work with them before they get here to see if it would be possible for them to work with us on some Jack and Bores in those various locations: Bamboo, Lone Star,
Or even some
Courthouse,
or even some trestles.
or trestles. We'll we'll gladly take a trestle.
Just a question regarding that. The master drainage plans for those specific areas of Onville had recommended so many, Jackson Bores going across the railroad tracks. Is that being used as a basis of the design when you get a consultant in to do this design work?
So, for example, I'll tell you, like Low Street, if I recall correctly, says that the existing culvert, which is probably a 36, to remain, and then you add 248s. And that's a 100-year, that's a 100-year capacity flow. We go to the railroad and say, this is what we'd like to do. The railroad might come back and say, well, we actually want it to be 54 or, bigger. We've got no problem. But that's the basis of it. They run that 100-year storm, and they base all of those crossings off of that.
Thank you, Mr. Jewell. Okay, if there are no other questions on the council, we'll move on. Ordinances, resolutions introduced for publication, public hearing. Monday, July 27th, 2026, 6 p.m., Council Chambers, Courthouse, Hanville. Items 2026-0214, 0222-0224, 0225, and 0226. Next, ordinance is scheduled for public hearing, introduced at a previous meeting. 2026-0195, an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of amendment number 1, ordinance 22-3-2, which approved a contract with DRC Emergency Services, LLC for storm debris removal and recovery 2021, project number P210801, to include additional services for waterway debris removal and recovery. Mr. Jewell, do you have anything to explain there?
Yes, Chairman. This ordinance approves an amendment to the parish's existing emergency debris contract with DRC Emergency Services to add several services that are not currently included in our existing contract. These include waterway and marine debris removal, debris removal from public ditches and canals, marsh grass, levee debris removal, catch basin, storm drain cleaning, and the towing, handling, and storage of vehicles and vessels. The need for this amendment was identified during a hurricane preparedness meeting with GOSEF, where the parish was encouraged to ensure that all potential necessary debris removal and recovery services were included under the contract prior to the main portion of the hurricane season, the 2026 hurricane season. GOSEF recommended amending our existing contract to address these gaps, and based on those discussions, the parish and GOSEF do not anticipate reimbursement issues should the parish need to activate these services during the current storm season. The proposed unit prices were reviewed using comparable contracts from neighboring parishes and were determined to be reasonable and consistent with regional market rates. The amendment will expire with this existing contract on December 31st, 2026. The parish will competitively procure a new emergency debris contract a little later this year, and these additional services will be included in that new contract moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Jewell. File number 2026-0195 is now open to public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Milton Alamo Hornville. And I certainly don't have a problem with us removing storm debris, but there's such an open-ended contract, if you will, because it doesn't really specify what waterways. Is it anything any stream or canal that holds water? We're going to go in and clean them out, and this contractor is going to do all that work for us. Does it say anything about existing boat hulks or whatever you want to call them that's been floating around in the water for years, that the hurricane may have moved a little bit? No one wanted to pick them up before, but now the public is going to pick that up. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. I'm not saying that it doesn't need to be done, but it's too open-ended. Somehow you have to put some guidance in here as saying, we're going to remove this type, that type, this, whatever. We've got canals where trees have been laying across them for years. So when the hurricane comes along, someone's going to say, oh yeah, the hurricane knocked that tree down. So we're going to have a contractor clean it? How do we determine? In fact, there's a statement in here. I didn't read the whole thing. I don't have it with me. There's a statement in here saying that someone's going to determine at the time what qualifies to be removed under this contract. Who's that someone? What's the criteria for doing that? It's a lot of open ends here. And I suspect this could possibly drive this contract way out of sight. If we've got a lot of waterways, we've got a lot of debris in the waterway, we got a lot of potential to get stuff in the waterways, and we know we're going to have a hurricane. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allemon. File number 2026-0195 is still open for public hearing. If there's anyone who'd like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? Mr. Carmadell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question was just about the contract. I see where the contract's been extended twice already. When it ends in 26, does it go back out for bid? Or are we tapped out on extending current contracts? Or
Yeah, I mentioned that in my note. Probably around August, September, we're going to be putting out a new contract out for proposals,
okay,
and then it'll be graded and evaluated and awarded.
keeping the water work?
Everything that's under this amendment will be included in the full contract, the next one.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Jewell, you were up to speak. You've covered what you needed to?
Chairman, no, I have not.
Okay.
So I just want to mention this. I know the resident got up and asked some questions. So yes, when a hurricane passes and we utilize our debris contract and DRC comes around to all of the houses and picks up debris that's put at the curb, what's following that debris contract is a debris monitor. That name was mentioned earlier, Thompson. Thompson is our debris monitor, and they are the ones who independently qualify whether that debris meets the guidelines for removal. Now, after Hurricane Ida, we did do waterway debris removal because we had so many trees and waterways across this parish, and you have to get back up and running as fast as possible and prepare for another potential hurricane, which we've seen in the past where we get hit by a bad hurricane and another one's right behind it. That we did bring in, we did do an emergency RFP for a contractor to come in and do canal debris removal. That's a big help for us. In fact, it was on Primrose Canal where I know at least one place where we did that, where we brought in a contractor to help us clean that up. That is a huge help for us when we go, trying to get recovered quickly after a storm and get the drainage system back up to its operating capacity. But again, this isn't, it's not a free-for-all. You have a monitor who has to qualify that debris independently of the contractor. And if you do not have that information attached to your submittal to FEMA, you're not going to be reimbursed for the removal of that debris.
Thank you, Mr. Jewell. If there are no other council discussions, would you please cast your votes for file number 2026-0195? And that passes unanimously. Next up, 2026-0197, an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of a contract with GEH Enterprise LLC for the construction of a dog park, project number RECBP 219, in the amount of $1,430,000. Mr. Jewell, would you like to explain?
Thank you, Chairman. This ordinance awards construction contract to TEH Enterprise, the lowest responsive and responsible bidder for the St. Charles Parish Dog Park near the animal shelter. This project has been planned for more than 10 years, and nearly $800,000 of the cost will be funded through a community impact grant that is specifically restricted to this project and cannot be redirected to drainage or any other parish purpose. The project includes separate areas for large and small dogs, pavilions, restrooms, water service, agility equipment, a dog washing station, and other necessary site improvements. For the safety of owners and dogs alike, and I know this is a point of a lot of conversation, owners will be required to register their dogs through animal control. This process will confirm that each dog's vaccinations are current and that the animal does not have any history of incidents that could pose a danger to owners or other dogs. Once registration is complete, the owner will receive a key card connected and registered to that animal. This project allows the parish to leverage substantial outside funding for the project and complete a long-planned recreational facility while also promoting responsible pet ownership and providing a safe, controlled environment for residents and their pets. We ask for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Jewell. File number 2026-0197 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who'd like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Milton Alamo Hornville. There's so many things to say about this ordinance. I don't even know where to start, but I'll start here. Just a little less than 6 years ago, we had a quote to build this dog park. Now, we added a lot of fancy items to it, but we could have built a dog park for $450,000. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the same contractor, engineering, architect, whatever you want to call him, that designed the $450,000 park, designed this one. So what are we trying to do here? Everybody loves our canine friends, but they really don't know if they're walking on the side of the levee or if they're walking in a $3 million dog park. Because that's what it's going to cost, $3 million, because we spent $1.5 building a road to access it. That was the only reason to build that road. Don't believe anybody when they tell you we built it because Ashton needed a second ingress and egress. They have one. All they got to do is open the gate. How many other public roads we have in this parish that we lock off from the public? Does that don't sound like some type of discrimination against somebody somewhere? There's so many problems with this. And it's great that we're getting some dedicated funding. Let that project fit within that funding. Let all the additional funding that's coming out of the general fund go towards drainage. What do you think is the most important things of people in this parish? And you had a great, I don't know what you want to call it, program, Mr. Parish President, telling us all the work we're doing, and we are. We're doing a lot of work, there's no doubt about that. You can see it everywhere, but we're not getting there. As long as you got one house that's flooding, it's one too many. Until we stop flooding homes, we'll never get a handle on our flood insurance rates. All that works against us. And you see it every day, every time. I'm here to tell you, because I monitor what's going on in my neighborhood, the water came up quicker and higher with less rain this time than it did ever. So that tells me somewhere down the line from where I live at, the drainage doesn't work. I keep saying this and saying this. I invite all of y'all in emails to come out and take a look at it. Nobody does. So we need to concentrate, number one, on drainage. And some of y'all know that. Some of y'all don't. If you've never been affected by a flood or have an immediate family member that did, maybe your sympathies towards them is not quite there yet. We need help with drainage. We need to build a dog park that fits the needs of the people of this parish. It needs to stay within that budget that he says he has to build it from an outside source. It's very, very frustrating when I see things like this because I see people
Mr. Alamo.
on my street that flood every time we have a major rain. I could go on and on forever, but I think
Probably could. If your time's up, if you need additional time, you'll have to let us know.
Thank you and I appreciate it.
Thank you,
But
Mr.
just
Alamo.
remember what our priorities should be in this parish. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. File number 2026-0197, still open to public hearing. If there's anyone that'd like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. My name is Victor Bucola, 107 Bergers Lane. I think all of y'all know me because I'm the District 2 appointee to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. I'm just going to read it so I can get it out fast. After I was sworn in to be one of the 7 ZBA board members and the Planning and Zoning Department Director, Mr. Albert provided me with a folder containing various documents to read. They included this pamphlet that's sitting out in the lobby. It's about policies and procedures for boards, commissions, and committees. One of the operating procedures included in this document states in part that when addressing the parish council or another body, a board member, which I am, shall clearly indicate whether he is speaking as an individual or as a member authorized by the board to represent a position. While speaking from this lectern, I do so as an individual exercising my First Amendment right to free speech on this proposed dog park ordinance. Everything I say on this matter has not been authorized by the Board of Adjustment or any other individual ZBA board member or by any other public official, public body or official. So now about the dog park. When I first reviewed the dog park plans, the artist's rendering appeared appealing and it nicely finished the park conceptually for visitors to be able to enjoy with their dogs. The drawing that displays representative landscaping appears on the first page only of the construction plan, and the engineer has designated it as a conceptual plan. The word conceptual is synonymous with other words like theoretical and hypothetical. When I further delved into the 392-page long document, the contract document, I did not find written details or specifications that specify the contractor is to provide and install landscaping so as to complement the artist's rendering. There appears to me to be an obvious conflict between the plans and specifications, and where an obvious conflict exists, the contract stipulates that the engineer shall decide and the contractor shall comply with the decision that shall not be grounds for additional payment to the contractor in the event there is a conflict. It also appears that the technical specifications in the contract do not allow for this council to be involved in the resolution of any part of a conflict between plans and specifications. This council needs to be in front of this anomaly in order to be contractually assured that the required landscaping will be installed by the contractor or possibly a subcontractor. I imagine you can make this request tonight while you have that option, because once this contract as written is approved by this council, your window closes and any decision made later to resolve any other contract conflict that may arise rests only with the engineer to make. I'm going to need time extra.
Okay, Mr. Vicola, you've requested some additional time. We'll have to vote on that. Do we have a motion and a second? We have Mr. Carmadell and Ms. Wilson seconding. Additional 3 minutes. Let's vote on that. And that was unanimous. Please
Thank you,
proceed.
ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you will agree appropriate language concerning the inclusion of the required landscaping should be inserted into the contract, or St. Charles Parish needs to receive a verbal commitment in this public forum from the engineer and the contractor that the conceptual plan will be considered to be the actual plan, or something close, really close to it, and that the omission of a landscaping plan with the details and specifications in writing was due to an oversight. Our parish attorney may have an opinion on either of these two suggestions. Should this body vote this evening to approve this contract as written without any landscaping plan provision being added, when the contractor submits the building permit application to the planning and zoning, the issuance of a permit may be denied, and this will delay the start of construction. Should the permit be denied, the contractor would then have two options to remedy the denial. He would need to either, one, submit a landscaping plan that meets the code's landscaping requirements and then be issued the permit, or two, he may choose to appear before the Board of Adjustment, which I'm a member of, requesting a variance or a waiver to the landscaping requirements. However, should he choose the latter, this path will eat into his contract completion time because the ZBA will be tasked with hearing the case, and the ZBA meets only once a month. Please, let's not kick the landscaping can down the road. Let's resolve it now. Before this council votes, I urge members of this public body to first ask the parties who were responsible for creating the plan and the specifications about the required landscaping for this project. Ideally, there will also be some council discussion as to, one, what exactly does this contract as written and presented stipulate for landscaping? And two, what does the St. Charles Parish Code require for a landscaping plan? And three, how many and what type of landscaping plants will actually be provided and installed in order to complete the project? It is not my intention to stop or unnecessarily delay your votes on this contract, but the apparent omission of specific information on landscaping needs to be timely addressed. To wrap this up, I hope this matter can be easily remedied this evening before the final votes are cast. Alternatively, if this governing authority votes to disapprove this project contract as presented, then the omission of the landscaping plan would become moot. If I've said anything about this contract that I'm mistaken about, I expect someone who is present and is more knowledgeable about this contract's content to not hesitate to speak up and set me straight for the record. Thank you.
Done? Thank you, Mr. Piccola. File number 2026-0197 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone else who'd like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussions? Mr. Carmadell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, Mr. Jewell already answered some of my question about how the funding split was. So it looks like $630,000 to be awarded from parish funding. I don't see Mr. Ford here. So, Mr. Jewell, do you know why the low bid was not accepted?
Miles, do you have that? I know there was an issue with the low bid.
Yeah, there was an anomaly with the low bid. They did not include one of the items in their
So
bid.
disqualification.
Yeah, so they were disqualified.
Thank you, Mr. Carmadell. Mr. Mobley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me start out by saying I own a dog. I've been having the same little dog. Coco's its name. 15 years now. I take Coco to the camp with me. We watch television together. Me and Coco are tight. But I'm sorry, Coco. I cannot support this ordinance. You got to figure 1.4 million. By the time you get change orders in, it's going to be over 1.5 million. And then, if you do something on the West Bank, you also have to do something on the East Bank. That's the way it's always been. So now we have over $3 million invested in dog parks. On June 18th, my home had water in it, in the living area. And I just cannot see us spending over $3 million on a dog park when we can use that money, like Mr. Alleman said, in a better way. And if this council passes this ordinance, we're basically just telling the people and the citizens of this parish that we don't care if you get water in your house. We don't care if your car floods. So maybe we can get some corporate sponsorship. I don't see any corporate sponsorship on this project. Was there any? No.
No, sir.
Possibly we could get Dow, jump in and we could call it the Dow Wow Dog Park, I mean, if we could get some help with it or somebody set up a GoFundMe account, the dog lovers in this area, if they really want a dog park, GoFundMe. But I'm gonna quit talking now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mobley. Mr. Jewell, again.
Thank you, Chairman. And I figured that this question or this issue was going to come up. Obviously, this is not the first time we've had a recreation project that has come to us after some sort of major event. As soon as we get them engineered and ready to bid, we bid them and we bring them to the council as fast as possible. This one just came when it came. But to say that we shouldn't pass this, or if we do pass this tonight, that it means we don't care, I think is disingenuous. And I'm not saying, with all due respect, I say that with all due respect. In fact, you are in an area, Mr. Mobley, where, gosh, if that drainage project under the $10.5 million drainage project under the railroad was completed, you probably wouldn't have water in your house. And I know that project's coming, and I've talked to you and Walter, and I know it can't come fast enough. It took a long time to get it permitted. But when the parish president and the parish council set our priorities, we do so through the budget. That's how we set our priorities in the parish. And I want to pull some numbers out. First, I want to let you know that our infrastructure to recreation spend is 10 to 1. 10 to 1. It's not even close. So to say that tonight, by not approving this dog park, that we are somehow going to take $600,000 and solve some other issue is not accurate. We have $220 million set aside for infrastructure. We have 20 set aside for recreation, 5 of which is for a project that's ongoing right now. It's 19 million. 5 of which is for the boat launch going in the West Bank. And I'm going to disagree with you, Mr. Mobley, because I'm not going to build another boat launch on the East Bank. They already got one. But I don't believe that because we build something on one side of the river, that we have to go and build it on the other side of the river. There's a reason that we put things by the bridge, because it's centrally located. There's a reason that the East Bank Bridge Park doesn't have 3 additional baseball fields. They only have 2 baseball fields, because we do not have to make it perfectly even on both sides of the river every time. Now, I know the school system probably follows that mantra. They get a turf field, they get a turf field. We do not have to follow that mantra, and we don't. It's the same reason that we don't have another community center on the East Bank. So I want to take that number further down, because this is roads, drainage, flood protection, and levees. Go Mesa funds, waterworks, wastewater. That's $220 million. $180 million of that 220 is drainage. $180 million. It is a 10-to-1 spend, and it's disingenuous. I know politically it may not be comfortable to take the vote, but it is disingenuous to say that if we don't do this, then we will be able to do this. I know we have some folks here from St. Rose tonight. I'm looking at all of our projects that we have in the pipeline. Turtle Pond Pump Station, Fairfield and Oakland Pump Station, Fairfield and Oakland to Airline, the downstream improvements. We have all of those projects fully funded, meaning that when they come up to our council after we bid them, they are ready to go out to bid and get approved and be built. The fact of the matter is that those projects take time to engineer, they take time to design, they take time to permit. During that time, while all that's going on, we are funding and building up funds for those projects. So I just wanted to make it clear to the public that $180 million of the $220 million that we spend on infrastructure is drainage. And we're sitting here talking about a $1.4 million park, which, yes, it's $1.4 million. I know people think it's for dogs and it's one thing. I promise you that will be the most used park in St. Charles Parish. It will, by far, minus the West Bank Bridge Park, where we literally force all of our baseball play and everything else. So the $600,000 transferred, you can transfer it to something else. It's not going to make anything happen any sooner, and it's not going to make anything happen that wouldn't otherwise happen under our normal budgetary process. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Jewell. Ms. DeBrouillet.
Just wanted to ditto a lot of the same things that President Jewell said. You know, there are a lot of benefits to a dog park more than just dogs. I mean, there's a lot of benefits for dogs and pets, but for people too, you know, just being around others, you know, to bring people treat their dogs like their family member. And when one person brings their dog to the dog park and there's another person, not only can their dogs learn socialization, but people can also talk to others. Not everybody has, you know, numerous friends that they can go to the camp with and so forth. Sometimes they're looking for another soul to go and just have a conversation with, and something in common, like their dog. And this has been talked about for a long time. And there are a lot of people that are very interested in this, and I agree. You know, I think we need to continue to do projects simultaneously. Yes, drainage is a priority, but we also need to work together and get other projects done during the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeBrouillet. Ms. Fonseca.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to express my support for this project. We have been receiving requests for a dog park for probably more than 15 years. And I know some people aren't dog lovers. But I also say that I've said time and time again, having been with the parish as long as I have, there will always be drainage projects. And while we have always worked steadily towards resolving those projects, we can't neglect quality of life projects, because there are too many of our residents that would make them not happy as well. There's a balance, and you heard the numbers from Parish President Jewell. They speak for themselves. We're going to continue working on the areas that are having flooding issues. We know what those areas are. But quality of life can't suffer in the meantime. I am in full support of this. I have been for years. We've been working towards it, like I said, for years. And I'm looking forward to seeing people enjoy it.
Thank you, Ms. Fonseca. Ms. O'Daniels.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to ask a question a little legal concerning the timing of this particular, the bid was a long time ago. I have some concerns about that, as well as, for my part, absent digging through the bid, we really didn't have anything presented to the council on the scope of this particular dog park. And with regard to the dog park itself, isn't so much the dog park itself, but it's also the inclusion of restrooms, of which aren't considered appropriate in St. Rose, but they're considered appropriate in a dog park. So let's revisit the legal ramifications of the fact that this bid has been outstanding for how long it is. Is there any legal reason why we need to take a hard look at this bid tonight?
It appears to me that the bid was opened on May 7th, which Louisiana law requires within 45 days either an acceptance or rejection of the low bid or rejection of all bids. That does allow for an extension, and I believe in this case, I know Mr. Forey is not here, but I believe in this case there was an extension, a mutual extension, allowing us to go over today's time period. That's what I was just trying to look up and see. So it's still within the time frame to allow the bid. If the parish rejects the bid, they have to reject all bids, which would put a delay. You cannot rebid this project for at least another 12-month period in accordance with Louisiana law. So the statute requires a just cause, which usually means that automatically the bids came above budget, which it didn't happen. The scope drastically changed, which I'm not going to speak to the scope. Something we don't do in the legal department. Or the parish decides to reject all bids, which delays the project. It has to be rebid at least within 12 months. Later than 12 months. Nothing can be done for a 12-month time period. So there are ramifications to not voting on this project tonight.
Okay. And further to that, Mr. Bukola spoke concerning the landscaping, and I know you said you can't address the scope of the contract. President Jewell, do you have any insight on the landscaping portion of this particular contract?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Ms. Wilson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We talk about projects as far as drainage projects going on, and I hear tonight, and we've always heard that there are drainage projects in areas, drainage projects that are going on, but on the West Bank side, in the Hornville area, the Kelowna area, there is no pumps at all. So we have to depend on the workers to be able to clear drainage for us in Hornville and in Kelowna, because again, there is no pumps, there is no work that's being done, any projects or anything. So the residents have to struggle. They have to wait, hope and pray that they don't, have any type of flooding issues. But we did have, let me take it back, we did have a project on King Street. So that did help those residents on King Street for this rain that we just had. But when it comes to the dog park at this point, right now I can't support it because I'm just, still just trying to get some work done. And to my at-larges, to at least just, to come to Hornville to even see what's going on Low Street, Bamboo, when there's rain coming. Even with the new project that's coming, with that new subdivision that's coming, we have residents on both sides of Courthouse Lane that's worried about the new subdivision as far as drainage. So at this point, I cannot support this dog park.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Jewell?
I just want to again say how these are not mutually exclusive projects. Like it's not that you have to choose one or the other. Drainage has been a problem in St. Charles Parish for 50 years or more. Why do we have any parks in St. Charles Parish? Why would we ever think about building any type of quality of life project until every single person has a guarantee of not flooding in any possible scenario? The fact of the matter is we don't operate that way because quality of life projects are important. Now remember, again, I know that we just had 106 residences flood out of over 18,000 residences in the parish. I am out when it is raining. I am out there with all of you. If you are out driving, I'm out driving. Me and Walter have ridden together. When you are up worrying about rain, I am up worrying about rain. I am in your neighborhood at 3 a.m. driving. To say that because the Hawn and King Street project isn't complete yet, which, by the way, we've already paid our mitigation. All we're doing is waiting for the Corps to mail us our permit. Not approving this tonight doesn't stop that project from moving forward, or any other project for that matter. We have a list of projects that are currently under construction right now, and other projects that we are going to bid this year, and we have a list of projects that are going to bid next year. Not approving this project, or when we bring the AMA Park approval, because if we don't approve this park project, we certainly shouldn't approve the AMA Park renovation or the new Sarpy Park renovation that's coming up. Don't approve any of them if that's going to be the case. Okay? Still's not going to change how these drainage projects move, because they move at the pace in which we bring them and get designed and they get permitted and they get funded. None of that is going to change how those projects move. There's also a limit to which our internal engineers can handle. We cannot put out 30 projects in a year. There's not enough contractors, and there's not enough capacity for our engineers to manage said projects. So we always have to keep bringing these projects out as they come up, and we've gotten on a good rhythm of how to do that. Again, while all that has been going on, and you mentioned relying on the workers, 3 new outfall canals behind Low and Bamboo have been dug. So let's not pretend that nothing is happening when things are very much happening. The drainage system is objectively better today than it was when I started in office in 2020. It will be objectively better when I leave office in 2028. And my hope is that when the next parish president comes in and leaves, that the drainage is even better than it is today. That is the goal that we have as elected officials, is to take the parish and look at the various quality of life factors and try to make the quality of life as best as we can in St. Charles Parish within reason. We are not in an unreasonable position. There's going to be no required additional employees to maintain this park. It's going to become a part of our normal park system. Remember, we've been shedding the parks that do not fit within the parish's master plan. So everything that we are doing is following a plan, whether that's in recreation or drainage or wastewater or waterworks. It's been following a plan. Again, $180 million set aside for drainage. Is this $660,000? Ask yourself, is this $660,000 of parish funds for this project going to be the difference maker for drainage in St. Charles Parish? It's not. We have 20 years of future projects that we are going to be steadily doing as we follow the master plan. And drainage will get better with each one of those projects that we do. Again, I ask for your support tonight for this project.
Thank you, Mr. Jewell. Ms. Fonseca, second and final time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, it is. Ms. Wilson, I don't recall you being on the phone when I called the EOC to check on all my areas, and I know you're not in the car with me, but I do check on all my areas during every rain event. In this particular area event, Hunville wasn't the hardest hit in this particular one. So my focus was on the other areas that were hard hit. The other point that I want to make is this project's in the budget. It was already approved by each of us when we approved the budget late last year. So we got an acceptable bid. We have a contract, and there are no issues with them. So I foresee if this does not get approved tonight, that the parish is going to be faced with a lawsuit. And that's going to cost us money. So think about that. We've all already approved the funding for the administration to move forward with this project. We did so even before last year, but it is in this year's budget. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Fonseca. Ms. O'Daniel, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, I have to take a minute on that one. This is a difficult place we're in because we have a timeline. We had a 4-week delay between meetings. A lot of things have happened, but the bottom line is you have an $800,000 cost share on this. If you look back to the original plan, which was in 2019, it was basically throw some dirt down, throw up some fences, and put some sprinklers in, and we have a dog park. This plan, even though I begrudgingly believe it's pretty modern and all-inclusive, with the exception of the landscaping, so I don't know what's happening with that. This plan is a much more modern dog park, provides an inclusive area, and like I said, begrudgingly because of the legal aspect of this and what position it puts us in. I just feel like, to a certain extent, between us, it's in the budget. It was in the budget. It's here. And if we turn it down now, we're going to be looking at a year delay in addition to potential litigation. I agree with Councilwoman Fonseca on that. I think we're in a jam. And I hope that we never get ourselves in this again, and in the future that if something like this comes up, that it's discussed with all council, that we can see the plans in advance and see what we're actually dealing with. We just had some talk about it, but up until the bidding, I had no idea that it was going to be as inclusive. However, the vast majority of it is going to be paid for by a special grant, and it's been our history to leverage those grants as much as we can, given the circumstances. I appreciate everybody discussing this and discussing their opinions on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Daniel. Second time, Mr. Carmado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I've received no complaints about the dog park from anyone in my district. The only negatives that I've received have come from residents across the parish in many districts. And it's the poor condition of some of the current recreation fields that we are using right now. A lot of complaints about my WPA park. If you threw a baseball or a football in the field today, you'd lose it. The grass is so tall. I received pictures today of Mimosa and Harry Hurst where flag practice is going on. Grass is, above ankle high, ant piles everywhere. That's the complaints I got on it. No one really objecting to the park. I think a lot of the negativity that was seen on social media and some of us received is a dissatisfaction with the recreational facilities outside of the general bridge parks that just aren't friendly. I know I've discussed the WPA maintenance contract over with Mr. Forey before, and I think I've spoke to Ms. Jewell about it. Understand during baseball season it gets more attention than off season. But just because the recreational season is not active doesn't mean the community doesn't want to use the facility or the park or take a dog walk in their park. There's nothing that restricts someone from bringing a dog to any one of our parks unless they're having a major effect. Well, they use all the parks because I know they use my park. But in general, I think that's what a lot of my negativity from residents have come from. But I've had no objections to this. And I do agree that I think we're kind of late in the game to start rejecting something that we've supported twice already through the budget process.
Thank you, Mr. Carmado. I guess I get a chance to say a few things here myself. I went back to documents that were passed, ordinances that were passed in 2019. It was well before I decided to get crazy and run for office and won. And I had my whole plan to see that drainage was number one in this parish, and I still believe that drainage is number one. We could say all we want about having money that is in the bank, but if we don't spend it, we still have a problem. If we have all that money, maybe we need to get some more staff because we say we can't, and we're not going to argue about this point. Get some more staff, get some things going. Back in 2019, I remember speaking at the council meetings, and I was not in favor of a dog park. I wasn't then. I still sit here and I go, I can't believe what I'm seeing. So I pulled the documents up, and the design of that dog park took place back then, and the estimate, probable opinion cost by the engineering contractor, it was $359,451, and he had a scope of work, basically an estimate how he got to that figure. And let's say that's good, and we didn't put all the extra little things that we have, and it's cute and it's good. It looks real pretty. And we have bathrooms that are very, very attractive. Okay, and we got all kind of things in there. We got designs in the mosaics of the entrance to the park. And I'm not a dog person. I don't have a dog that I sit and watch TV with. I probably wouldn't anyway. But if you take the escalation that's published in construction and analytics, and it's only about 3.8% average. But I'll say let's go 6%. That $359,451, so it will be $532,560, right? But yet we're at 1.4 million, and we're there because of redesign. This isn't something that's just escalation. It's scope creep, big time, and so. Those are the kinds of things that kind of get under people's skin. And yes, I've had people say, do we need a dog park? And my answer to them is, no, we don't need one. Do we want one? Sure, we want one. But the bottom line is you don't need one. And so I don't do much social media, what do you call it, surfing. I'll put things out there and stop my flooding in my own, and I really don't pay attention to a lot of this stuff. So I don't know what people are saying for sure, but I can tell you this, people that come to me in my area, and we're flood prone. They say, what do we need one for? What do we need a dog park for? We need to fix this drainage, and I understand all of what you're saying, but until we put a whole bunch more people on staff and get some of these projects pushed through, we've got about 5 of them that were designed back in 2020, and those things are still sitting on the shelf. Okay, and that makes a difference, folks. And people know about this stuff. So, as far as an infrastructure ratio to recreation of 10.1, I think it should be. I think recreation is important, but good God, your infrastructure is. And the length to go from a start of a project to construction in infrastructure, like a drainage program, like culverts across the railroad tracks. My God, that's 6 years so far. It is what it is. But let's get after it. And look what happened with the schools. They've overspent. We've got the alumni centers that people ask me about. We have nothing to do with that. Not a thing to do with that. And I keep reminding them, that is the school system. But that is regarded by a lot of people in this population of this parish as being opulent. That's probably the best word. Not necessary. Let me tell you what it's going to settle out, over $10 million. And that's no bull, because I pulled the numbers. I got them from the school system. So my point is really simple. All right. To me, we started out with something that was 7 years ago. And we're at the point where now it's almost 3 times the cost. And we're asking this council to fund this thing. And I have heartburn with this. I got to tell you. So put all the other things aside. I've said what I had to say. I guess it's time for a vote. Please cast your votes. And this passes with Mr. Mobley, Ms. Wilson. Pull it back up. I'm not that quick.
You.
Yourself. You.
Me? Well, I thought it was 4. No. 3. Okay. So it passes, folks. Thank you. Let's move on. All right, 2026-0196. An ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of a contract with Cass Brothers Incorporated for the Kindler in Paul Frederick Roadway and Drainage Improvements, Phase 1, project number P210704, in the amount of $728,906. And Mr. Bingham, can you please explain?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm glad I'm coming up with a drainage project after all of that.
Absolutely.
This is a project, and you talked about the length of time it takes to get somewhere. In my first year here, I visited this neighborhood when we had a major flood. They experienced catastrophic flooding, and it was something that I saw. It was something that Parish President Jewell saw, and we saw a need to fix this issue. This has taken a good bit of time because we had to negotiate 9 drainage servitudes and acquire 2 pieces of property to make this happen. And the neighborhood was absolutely wonderful with us on that. And I want to thank the council people that helped us get that done, and also my friend Mr. Oob, who made a lot of, his staff did a lot of work to help us acquire those servitudes and everything. And it was a very good process. And the neighborhood was very happy and excited about this project. This will put in mid-block drainage so that we can carry the water from the mid-blocks of this area, which has a very long drainage street, that they have to carry the water all the way to one end to get it out of the neighborhood. And it will put in cross drains in the middle of the blocks to take it to the back ditch. Now we still have to improve that back ditch, and we have that project working on that one as well. But this will help this neighborhood a great deal. Cass Brothers is a good contractor. They gave us a very good bid on this project, and we would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bingham. File number 2026-0196 is now open to public hearing. If there's anyone that'd like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Milton Alamon. And thank you. I'm glad we got a chance to talk about some drainage after that mess too. For our parish president to sit up there and say, we've always flooded, it's okay. It's kind of like what he's saying. Okay?
Never said that, Chairman.
Didn't you say we always flooded?
Never said that.
No argument,
Okay,
please.
all right. You're right.
Never said that.
Time out.
Yes, sir.
No argument.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
He started it. Okay, thank you.
Stop.
All right. Okay. Let's go. Let's back up a little bit. We are doing drainage. No one, I think, comes up here and ever says we don't. And we are. We're spending a lot of money. And we're making some progress. Just everybody, every one of the 106 houses plus that flooded will stand up here and tell you, but we ain't getting it done. We're not getting it done because we're not approaching it sometimes from the simplest standpoint. I saw the day after the major rain this past month, parish employees working hard. I mean, they're working their tail off with a long stick with a hook on the end of it, trying to get debris out of a culvert that they couldn't even see the culvert because it was covered with water. The culvert got plugged. How did it get plugged? It got plugged because the ditch was probably not cleaned. Probably the debris washed down into the culvert, or maybe the culvert was plugged before. What I'm saying is, besides the millions of dollars that he says we're spending, is doing such a great job as, I'm saying, why can't we get better at the routine stuff? Why are we not cleaning our culverts? Why are we not digging out ditches? Why are we not cleaning out our jack and bores? Even if you can't change the ones you got, there's got to be a way to clean them. I don't care if you flush them out with water. You're not disturbing the railroad, and we got to get better at what we're doing on a daily basis. We've got new people now in Public Works. Hopefully that will get us where we need to be. But we're not there. And to say that we didn't say that we've always flooded in St. Charles Parish is wrong. Thank you.
He's done. Thank you, Mr. Alamon. File number 2026-0196 is still open to public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to come up and speak regarding this item? Please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Council discussion. Ms. Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Kindler and Paul Frederick is now a part of my district. So, and I want to thank Parish President Jewel, Miles, Corey, and his team for the work that when we started with the meeting at Corey's office. And it was with several residents that myself, once Miles gave me the list of names, I went searching for those residents on Paul Frederick. So this has been going on for years. I can't even think which year that we started, but the work that we finally got the servitudes signed off and everything that needed to be done with this project, it was the work of the administration and myself, going out to those residents to make sure the calling back and forth, has it been signed, what's going on. The residents are calling me, I'm calling Corey's office, and his staff is steadily giving me updates so that I can update the residents on Paul Frederick, because still today they are calling to ask, what's going on. But one of the questions that I have is, once this work is done, have the administration ever thought about what happens when the project is done on Paul Frederick / Kindler? How does it affect the surrounding areas? Does it cause any drainage issues? Because we completed one area, we got that area straight, but what about the outer areas? Do we look at the outer areas as to improving their drainage issue, if they may have one, or maybe something could arise from the project?
Mr. Bingham, might you be able to address
Yeah,
that?
I can answer that question. In our master drainage plan, the Kindler ditch is actually something that is identified as needing to be improved, which is that back ditch that I talked about. It also talks about improvements that need to be done on the other side of the railroad tracks towards the river. So there is more work to be done. This is a first step. It will help this particular neighborhood. There are neighborhoods to the east of this, and to the west, that we are working on. Parish President Jewell mentioned the work we're doing over, I believe, on Milling Street, on the other side. That is another project that we are working on. These projects take time, and they take energy, and it's not always easy. It also takes capital. And I've heard a lot of discussion about my staff needing to work harder. My staff is very good, and I took a little offense at that, and I wanted to make that clear. They work their tails off to get things out on the street, and they work within our budgets. And we only have so much money that we can put forward towards any drainage project out there. And I would, I know that there are projects that we could do. We just don't have the budget to do it. And I've worked very hard with Parish President Jewell to define what we can do. And it's important that we understand that he makes an effort to try and expand and do something in everyone's area, so that he's benefiting everyone as we go through. And I think it's important that, but we only have a defined amount of money. And I think that's where I just wanted to make that clear. We work very hard. And this is one of those projects where we worked very hard. And we have other projects that are coming online this year that are taking that same effort. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I was just questioning it because Councilman DePriyo and I, we always talking about the area, because we kind of split Godsand, Luland Estate, Paul Frederick Kindler. So we're always talking about those areas as to how to improve.
The area to the west, they have the Hackberry Pump Station, which does help them. And that's one of the reasons, again, because that was, there's been debate as to whether that should have gone east or west. It comes to the east and goes into the same Kindler ditch. One of the reasons we need to improve that Kindler ditch is so that we do not, work against ourselves. So
Thank you, Mr. Bingham. Does that satisfy you, Ms. Wilson? Thank you very much. Mr. Jewell.
Thank you, Chairman. And Miles, thank you. I know this was a tough project as far as the number of individual servitudes that we had to work with property owners to get, and I want to commend your office as well as the legal office on that. Flooding has been an issue in this parish for a long time. I talked to people like Mike Mobley. I talked to people in Ormond. It's a 40-year-old issue. It's been an issue all over. I remember as a kid, 1995, we had a big rainstorm, a lot of flooding in that event. So it has been an issue. Has it been exacerbated by poor planning and low standards? I would also say yes. In fact, one of the gentlemen who got up and spoke had an issue behind his house. He said he'd been requesting for 30 years that a collapsed culvert be changed. Now, my administration, I would argue, has brought more drainage projects and infrastructure projects to this council and out on the streets to be constructed than any other previous administration. The gentleman mentioned the culvert behind his house. We got behind all of those houses and fixed those culverts. There was one person who delayed that project for months, and that was the same gentleman who got up and spoke, who would not let us actually perform the work until we had to literally go into someone else's property and perform it not on his property. So it's very disingenuous for someone like that to get up here and try to pretend that we don't care about drainage. And I said early on that I'm not satisfied if even one home floods. And my staff knows that. But we have brought more projects to this council, and projects that people thought were impossible to do, like the one happening across the street from you, Walter, that have been talked about for 40 years. And so I really just want to say that the proof is in the pudding, the proof is in the budget, and my administration has been producing. Am I happy with the level of rainstorm we've been getting? No. I'm not. They are ungodly amounts of rain. They are rains that our system is not designed for. And we're moving forward and trying to shift everything that we can do to try to figure out ways to build time and build retention and build capacity within our system as we work towards the longer goal of completing the master plan. But you have to understand that that isn't just me snapping my fingers to say, go do it. Most of the places where I need to get, someone else owns that property. We don't live in China. We don't live in the USSR. I don't just get to go say, get off of your property, I'm taking it. There's a whole process for that. We prefer, if we need someone's property, that we have an arm's length transaction. This is one of those cases where we had to go individually to property owners, and everybody wanted something different, and everybody wanted more money than the next person, or they didn't want to donate it because this. We are bound by the laws of the state and the parish to be able to do these projects within the guidelines that we're given. And we do that, and we have been doing that. We have a record of success, and we're going to continue to do that for the next 18 months.
Thank you, Mr. Jewell. Ms. Fonseca.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to also thank Miles and Parish President Jewell and his staff and Corey, legal office. This project was initiated last term. And I remember getting phone calls from residents in the area because of the roadway conditions, and having to tell them that we do not want to do the roadway improvements now because we have a drainage project that's coming, and it's going to be done in tangent with the drainage work. So I know they're thrilled. And I know a lot of people don't understand why it takes these projects so long to come to fruition. And one of the best examples is the amount of work that had to be done to get the servitudes and the multiple families that were involved in that, and just negotiating with them within the law that the parish has allowed. So thank you very much. Miles, did you want us to add to that?
We have a roadway project that will follow this project after we complete the drainage improvements to improve these people's roads. And as the councilwoman said, Paul Frederick is probably one of the worst streets in the parish.
Yes.
And it needs to be fixed. But we can't fix it until we fix the drainage, because it will just go back to being what it is. This drainage is going to help that, and then we're going to fix the road. And that project is being designed right now, And as soon as we finish the drainage, we're going to want to bid that project as well. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, all of you. This is good to see.
Thank you both, Ms. Fonseca and Mr. Bingham. Ms. O'Daniels.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the conversation today about how difficult it was to put this project together. This is the same exact problem we're going to have in St. Rose when we start gearing up for providing our residents some kind of relief. Is the fact that we need to work on these servitudes, trying to get agreements. We need to work with our community, and that's what Councilwoman Wilson did. Is she knew the people in community, reached out to the community, and facilitated a lot of these different agreements. And we need to do that here in St. Rose. We're going to have to move fast, and we need to find out who these people are. How can we get some servitudes, some land behind our homes, things like that. And that is the only way we're going to get relief in St. Rose for a lot of our residents. It's going to have to do with private landowners. And this has taken how many years? We don't have that. We don't have that many. We don't have that many years to go. We can't wait. We need to start working on this now. Talk amongst the community. Let them know we're going to be reaching out to people, and we need help. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Daniels. If I could, I'll clear the air a little bit if it's okay. I don't think anyone that I can think of, either on this council or elsewhere, can say that your people aren't working hard, Miles. Okay? That isn't coming from me. It isn't coming from here. I think you could use some more people. That was my comment. And that was substantiated by what Mr. Jewell had said too. You need a larger department likely to do the types of projects you're talking about. And people are frustrated right now because when you see water in the street and it's still raining at 4 inches an hour, intensity, you get something called PTSD. And if your house is flooded, you know all about that. I've done it. I know all about it. And so we have to understand what the public is going through in their opinion, and I think Mr. Jewell does, and I think everybody in this council empathizes, if not, tries. We're participating in it, right, Mike? we're flooding. So we just have to kind of be patient. But I need to tell people in this public that we're going to go through a very rough ride over the next, say, 6 months or so. The National Weather Service and the NOAA is predicting more and more of what Jason, am I telling the truth? Okay. And so some of this stuff can be solved possibly at the resident level, and I'm not trying to throw this back on anybody. I used to get out when I could, in hip boots and clean out storm drains. Somebody taught me a lesson after Ida, that you don't really be wanting to do that, because I almost lost a finger when my buddy's glove came off and mine didn't. So I got whacked by a heavy cover on a storm drain. But that was completely full of stuff, and we cleaned it out on our street ourselves. So I'm not trying to tell people they have to do that, but I'm kind of telling people if you can do something that mitigates problems, it's worth doing. And really, that's all I have to say. I think people have to realize, like some people have said here, you got your crews out there. A lot of times they come down the street and they're cleaning up storm drains ahead of these storms, and that's good, and people respond. So this isn't directed at the people. This is the frustration of the public, because when it rains hard, they're freaking out. I can't tell you any other way. So thank you for your efforts. Mr. Jewell, thank you for your staff and its efforts. Okay, I guess we have no other comments by the council. We ought to just go ahead and vote on this thing. And that passes unanimously. All right, next, persons to address the council. For those patient people out there, 2026-0212, Miss Catherine Turner Gordon. The subject is ditch cleaning and filling on 177 Smith Street, Honville, Louisiana 70057. You have 5 minutes to speak.
Well, I can tell you I will need more than 5 minutes. Good evening.
I thank the St. Charles Parish Council, President Jewell, Mrs. Lysandra Wilson, our district organizer, and Mr. Miles, district chairperson, for letting me speak this afternoon. I have heard a lot about infrastructure. I've heard a lot about drainage, and that's my problem. I have a home on 177 Smith Street that used to be Morgan Street. That home is over 100 years old. I have played in the ditch that's in front of that home. It used to be just a little cradle. Now it's a canal. And I'm asking that you all do something not only about the ditch, because each year they will dig it. It's getting deeper, and it's hard to maintain the grass. My husband cuts the grass on our side, and we're also cutting the grass on the street side simply because the parish is not cutting the grass. But I have also provided you with some pictures. My husband can only get so far down in that ditch to cut it with a weed eater. And it is very dangerous to maintain that yard. That yard is 100 feet wide, and it calls for a lot of muscles to get down in that ditch. Now, we don't care about maintaining it, but it's just that it's so deep, we're afraid that we will fall in it. My brother, Leo Turner III, used to live there. He passed away this year in January. He had Parkinson, and he also contracted West Nile. So when Parkinson and West Nile collided together, his life ability, it just went. Okay, he fell in that ditch 3 times. He also had glaucoma, and he was blind in one eye and 40% in the other. And he was in that ditch for a certain amount of time. So within that time, and being in a rural area, and with ditches holding water, it contracts and it houses mosquitoes. We don't know when he contracted West Nile, but he died from that being part of his illness as well. We're asking that you would just come and take a field trip and look in front of that yard to see how deep that ditch has gotten. You also changed the culverts in that ditch simply because when you dug it out, the existing culverts was no longer adequate for the run of the water. We are sitting in the middle of Smith Street. If you start at the beginning of Smith Street, you have a cradle for a ditch. When you get to the end of Smith Street, there's a cradle for the ditch. But in the middle of Smith Street, you have a canal, and it is very, very dangerous. I have an elderly person who's also living there, and she's kind of afraid to go out on the walkway because it's narrow, and the weather or the rain has washed away some of the filling. So if you're not careful, if you don't walk directly in the walkway, you may slide down in that ditch, and that's what happened to my brother. I also asked if I could put a railing on the walkway. They told me no, I could not, because it was going to obstruct the lawn people cutting the grass. The lawn people does not cut the grass simply because we were told that they don't have enough main power to keep that grass up. So that's why we are doing it. I have contracted the parish since 2023. So I've been working on that since 2023, and I can't get a resolution for it. So I'm asking that you would just kindly fill that ditch in, connect to the main drainage wherever that water needs to go, because we don't understand where the water is going and why it's that deep. So I'm asking that you would review the package that I did send, and I showed you some pictures, and that you would help us out. Compared to the money that you're spending on infrastructure, what I'm asking for maybe $3,000 to $5,000 just to close that in. Help me out. When we're cutting the grass, we can use the riding lawnmower to cut the whole thing, but now it's taking us quite a while to clean it. And like I said, my husband, he takes the weed eater and he goes as far as he can. And we're not young people.
Ms. Gordon, do you need any more time?
Yes, I do.
Okay, we'll have to take a vote. I have a move by Ms. Wilson and seconded by Mr. Carmadell for some additional time. Please cast your vote. That passes unanimously.
Thank you. Also, I listened to Mrs. Wilson as she says with Kelowna and Hanville. It is a rural area. I have lived in St. Charles Parish all of my life. I'm now living in Luling. I see the difference between the infrastructure projects, what's going on in Luling and what's going on in Hanville. Yes, where I live, we had a ditch. And because they came and dug that ditch out deeper, my husband had a problem cutting the grass. We filled it in. We simply because we could afford to do it. It cost us like $4,000 to fill that ditch in. When you're in a rural area like Hanville, Canal, and Kelowna, they don't have that kind of money. But we didn't ask for that ditch in Hanville to be dug like a canal. They dug it out for whatever reason. And each year, each other year, they keep making it deeper and deeper. So therefore, you can't maintain it the way you used to maintain it. There's a church that's on the corner of Smith Street and Sycamore Street. And when the people go to church on Sunday, they are afraid to park along the highway because they're thinking that they're going to fall in that ditch. And they're elderly people. So if we can just take just that little area and just close it in. Now, I don't know what it would take and I don't know what it's going to connect to, but I feel that it can be closed in, and that way you won't have to worry about the parish cutting the grass, because people who are living on that side, when they're cutting the yard, they'll just go up to the streets, and that'll take care of that. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon. Ms. Wilson, you have something to say?
Yes, thank you. Catherine, you forgot to tell us your address.
You got the one?
But she didn't see it. I apologize for that. My name is Catherine Turner Gordon, and I live at 502 Terry Drive, Luling, Louisiana. And it's an estate property located at 177 Smith Street, Hanville, Louisiana. That street used to be Morgan Street.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon.
All right, thank you. So when Ms. Gordon had reached out to me, well, actually, she didn't reach out to me. When Mr. Pele reached out to me in reference to the addressing the council information, the packet that we received, I did reach out to Ms. Gordon to get some more information, and she and I spoke, and I did, just went ahead and said, to address the council so that the council and the administration can hear her concerns. And I'm just asking that someone from the administration can give her a call this week to discuss some options with her.
Mr. Jew.
Thank you, Chairman. We did go back and look at our records for Smith Street. First, I just want to mention that 99%, maybe 98% of the parish, the residents of those properties cut their own ditch. It is the responsibility of the residents. We really appreciate when the residents do that, because our tractor drivers are much better suited to be cutting our major canals and the canals leading up to our pump stations. Those are the main arteries that we have to cut. We do end up doing a lot of cutting along state roads because the state is notorious for doing maybe 4 cuts a year. And so there are areas in various portions of the parish where, while our tractor drivers are traversing to get to those canals, where they will cut some of the deeper ditches. Deep ditches aren't uncommon. We have them in every location of the parish, And as water collects, you talked about the top of Smith Street. When water collects at the top of Smith Street, you don't need as much of a ditch. But as it's going down and everybody else's water is collecting with it, it's more water, more volume. You need a larger ditch to hold all that. Again, our ditches in some areas are increasing, and it's probably a good thing considering the amounts and severity of rains that we're getting. Again, if we want a better drainage system, we've got to be able to hold more of those waters. From our records, it looks like on average we're coming through there about once a month. In fact, I looked on Google Street View, and you could see it was actually cut from a tractor in that image from a year ago. But we're averaging, once a month, and every now and then, like in the winter, once every 2 months. But for us, the best case scenario is that the residents take care of the ditch. 99% of the time, the residents own the ditch. That ditch is your property. There are some cases where a ditch is within a right-of-way and you don't own that ditch. But a majority of the time throughout the parish, the residents own that property. It is just subservient. We have a servitude across it for purposes of drainage. And so we do tell residents that it's important for them to take care of that property, but we don't have the ability to go and close in every ditch in the parish. And there are certain cases where we will. For example, I know there was one in New Sarpy on a corner where the road was being undermined and the road base was falling into the ditch, and school buses were having a hard time making turns, and we did do that there. But it's kind of a fact of life and where we live in and how the drainage was designed to be open swale in those areas. I can tell you that the drainage, just from looking at our GIS, it goes down Smith Street. It makes a left towards the east down Sycamore Street, and then it goes through a 36-inch culvert underneath and ties into the ditch on 3160. I'm sorry, 3160. And that's where the water enters. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Jewell. I'd just like to say one thing, and this is not my place. I don't live on the West Bank, but I can tell you because from experience, some ditches were closed up in the Ormond subdivision, and the result had been flooding of people's homes, right? So the point there is that if you want to have culverts put into place of ditches, there's a process within the parish, and they've got to look at the design, they've got to look at the hydrology of the whole area. I don't know if you can go through that, but I can tell you at the end of the day, a culvert can only handle so much volume. A ditch can handle a lot of overflow volume, and I personally believe that that's a better thing than a culvert any day. So I'm just putting my 2 cents in because I've lived it. Just thought I'd say that. Sorry. All right. Item number 2026-0217. Mr. Thomas A. Alford, St. Rose Avenue flooding issues.
Yes,
you
sir.
State your name and address again, please.
My name's Tom Alford. I'm 725 St. Rose Avenue. First of all, you guys have a copy of all the slides that I've printed out or gave to the lady. Real quick, on the first page, picture my front porch. It's 18 inches high from the ground to the top of my porch right there. If you look to the right, that was 24 inches of water at my house. If you look at the bottom picture, that was a dry day. Look at the one on the right. That's when the rain was really coming down. If you look at the upper left picture on the front porch, left side, look at when it rained across the street. That's St. Rose Avenue. That's St. Rose Avenue. A foot of water on top of St. Rose Avenue. Front porch right side, that's the lake on the bottom right hand side of that next side. That's Lake Alford. That goes from my house all the way to the trailer 4 neighbors over. Now you ask, oh, I'm sorry, let me keep going. Side of my house to the next slide. where my shed is. My shed, the permit people or planning and zoning, they made me build my shed up almost 2.5, 3 feet to be in flood. Okay? Look at the water on my shed. That's 3 foot of water at my shed. Down at the bottom is my stairs where I go out the side of my house to get to my car. It's completely, stairs are completely covered in my yard. Now, you want to ask, what changed? I bought that property in 2018. 2018 when I bought that property, I was told it never flooded there. Never. But what has changed? You see that monstrosity that this guy built in the middle of that picture right there? He built that property up almost 4 foot 2 inches. From my property to his property, 4 foot 2 inches. He's 2 foot 8 inches higher than St. Rose. Now, my house only sits at 18 inches. My question to the council is, don't we have planning and zoning? How is it that somebody can build something like that? I'm a superintendent. I'm prior military. We build drainage stuff on fobs in Iraq 3 different times. I know for a fact that his water cannot drain on my property, and he can't block the water that comes from my property that goes down St. Rose. But there's even more things that I want to bring up. If you look at the next page, this is the culvert on the other side of the drive of the pump station. In other words, it's on the south side of that little road that goes to the pump for Diane Place. All right? This is the other side. You see water draining? And this right here wasn't during the massive rainstorm. This is 6 hours after the rainstorm came. The pump shut off 2 hours after the rain stopped, and it took 6 hours for that water to drain out from my property. If you look at the next picture at the bottom, there's 4 pipes that come out of that pump system. 4. Only one was pumping water out. There's a picture of it right there. Only one. Someone on St. Rose, and I'm going to need some more time, please. Someone on St. Rose, what's that? We Are St. Rose Facebook page said that, quote, she knows someone who works the pump station and 2 to 3 pumps are in op and funding for fixing is not being funded for 2 to 3 years. That's on Facebook. All right, if you look at the other 2 pictures on the right side of that page, that's the culvert that goes across St. Rose. The only culvert that's on St. Rose from River Road all the way to the railroad track. The only culvert. Where the water comes down the left side or the west side of St. Rose and has to drain over to the east side to catch the railroad track where the 2 culverts is that goes through the culvert. Time's up. May I have some?
Hang tight, Mr. Alford. We're going to take a vote. We have a move by Mr. Carmel and Ms. O'Daniel seconded. Motion to extend the time. You passes unanimously. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. All right, so that's the road. That's the culvert. You see any water draining? It ain't even looking like it's flowing to me. The next page is 6 hours after the flood, which I've already made talk about it. And the pump was shut down at least 4 hours. Because you know how I know the pump was shut down? I can hear it. That's how close I live to it. You can hear when that thing kicks on and it kicks off. There's a float. Like President Jewell said, there's a float that it works on. Once it gets to a certain point, it'll shut off. I'm going to tell you why it shut off. If you go to the next page, I want you to look at that thing all the way on the right side, that picture on the right side. That's a berm. that blocks that ditch that's on the right side or on the south side of that road that goes to the pump station. It blocks water coming down St. Rose Avenue through under the railroad track, and it doesn't get to the pump. And I'm going to show you how the water is actually draining as it goes through. If you look at the bottom picture in the middle right there, those are the two culverts. What is wrong with that picture? That picture shows that those two culverts are halfway full. In other words, they're clogged. How can we get water through it? All that water from River Road on the right side or west side of St. Rose comes down to my yard and sits there for 6 hours. It almost flooded again the next day when we had the next rain. All right, now the next picture, upper left, that's the culvert that crosses over St. Rose Avenue from west to east. Guess what size that culvert is? 24-inch culvert. A 24-inch culvert. And if you look at it, it's clogged as well in some cases, halfway. The picture all the way on the right side is the other side of that culvert. What's wrong with that picture? It's clogged. It's growth. It's growth everywhere. The bottom picture on the left side shows the railroad. That's on the north side, closest to the airline highway. It's got one area where the water can drain under the railroad to airline. Airline has three areas where it drains from Destrehan all the way to 310. 3. How does that water get into the main pump? Don't know. I walked it. Next picture. That's a drawing. That shows the ditch on the right side of St. Rose coming down, hitting that culvert, and we're at bottlenecks at the railroad. Yeah, I'm out of town, sir.
I think we allow up to 5 minutes, so if we could.
I'm almost done, sir. I'm sorry.
That's right, huh? Well, I don't know if the timer's still running, is it?
I didn't know that we said I was going to check and get more.
Yeah, he can.
All right. Now, the next picture is St. Rose Avenue. Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Vote on it.
Well, I think when we voted, it's supposed to give him 5 minutes. So we checked on that. Okay, we can vote on it again if you want to go ahead and finish. Hang tight. I've got Mr. Carmadell, Ms. Wilson, seconding. Please vote. Motion extend to 3 minutes. Passes unanimously. Please proceed.
Thank you, sir. Next group of pictures, the next 6 pictures on the last page is St. Rose Avenue. That thing has not been dug out since I've been there since 2018. My brother-in-law has been there 30 years. He lived in Diane Place. That thing ain't been dug out since that whole time as well. If you look at it, there's trees and everything that's in it. It's mattresses and concrete and stumps and lumber. It's all up in it. That water, if you go back to this page right here, that water comes down the left side of St. Rose, hits that one culvert, 24-inch culvert, comes over here, cannot flow through the culverts under the railroad track and dissipate. With a ditch like this, the water has nowhere to go. It needs to be dug out. Bottom line. So, in conclusion, the property of 729, I don't think was built to the standard. In fact, I don't think he has certificate occupancy to this date. Number 2, culverts need to be cleaned out to facilitate the water flow. Number 3, 24-inch culvert needs to be replaced and have a 48-inch culvert like you have at Almedia. We don't have that there. Because everybody's getting flooded on St. Rose. Everybody. Ever since that guy built that, everybody's getting flooded. The church, the apartments, you know, Mr. O'Daniels. Remove the berm that's blocking that water going to that pump. Fix the pumps. Dig ditches on both sides of St. Rose. Add secondary culverts on the other side of the railroad track, on the airline side of the railroad track, so the water can dissipate. And conduct a survey of the water flowing through the railroads and under airline to get to the main water pump or main pumping station on the other side of Airline Highway. And that concludes my brief.
Thank you, Mr. Alford. Mr.
Thank you for
Jewell.
your time.
Thank you, Chairman. Wanted to give the resident just some updates about what some of the stuff that we're doing. So, obviously, you've probably seen some of the work that we've performed at Diane Pump Station. We opened up the sump. We got rid of that. It was like an old wastewater station out there that serviced just Diane. We removed that. We opened up the sump. It can hold a lot more water. We do have a 30-inch portable pump out there right now. Our goal is to take that berm out. That berm's been there for a long time. And for the council members who don't know, this is kind of a weird area. So you have Diane subdivision, which flows back to a pump station. Then you have Oak Street, which services everything between the 4th Street pump and the Oak Street pump. And then you have St. Rose Avenue right in between those two, which is just supposed to gravity drain out. At least that's after adding the berm and everything, that's how it was supposed to work.
Yes, sir.
So what we are looking at, we've been analyzing removing that berm. Now, when we went back there after this big rain, and of course this was a huge rain for Tropical Storm Arthur, the water was up to the very top of those sheet piles in the Diane sump. So what that tells us is that we probably shouldn't be adding any more water to that. But what we're going to do is add another portable pump, another 30-inch pump. You have 3 pumps at Diane Pump Station, the permanent pump station. You have, and I don't remember the sizes off the top of my head, but you have 2 larger ones and a smaller electric pump. So we're going to add those 30-inch pumps there. Under design right now is a totally new pump station designed to that higher 25-year standard. The other thing that we're looking to do, because St. Rose Avenue is a state road, and we traditionally have not changed the culverts out on state roads, I've instructed Brandon to go in, work with our engineering group to do the first phase of digging and changing out of all the culverts. I've got it up here on my GIS map here. When you look at the pipes, you've got everything under the sun. You've got 21-inch, you got 17-inch concrete pipes, 27-inch, you've got 21-inch followed by 18-inch. There's really no rhyme or reason. And I think over the years, people just dropped in whatever they had or whatever, maybe we told them to drop it in. So what we're going to do is start from the railroad tracks going all the way up to Noto Street and catch that on both sides of the river. Both sides of St. Rose Avenue, and then do a larger culvert underneath. Upgrade that 24-inch to maybe a 36-inch arch. We'll let the engineering group size that out for us. Right now, water is going underneath there, and on that side is going in and making a right-hand turn before it goes under the railroad tracks. And of course, we know we need additional conveyance there.
Yep.
It's making a right-hand turn, and we are cleaning out that ditch on the north side of the railroad tracks. It's going and it's getting into our sump there. So we know St. Rose Avenue is already partially communicating with the Diane Pump Station, and me and the councilwoman had a long conversation about that. We believe once we get that additional pump in, that we can also remove that berm. Now, what we'll also evaluate is whether we can let gravity assist us there as well, or if we need to close those sluice gates at that pump there, and we can have a conversation afterwards about it. The other thing we're looking at is you have this open property right here at the railroad tracks,
Right.
On the right-hand side as you're going towards Airline. We are going to be contacting that property owner to see about purchasing that property, being able to dig it out for some retention. The main thing we got to do when that pump station is overwhelmed is find other places at a lower elevation to store that water while it waits to get pumped out. We're going to be doing the same thing at Oak Street in this area over here. It needs a larger sump too. And we see this is that when Oak Street gets overwhelmed, it's overflowing, it's going that way,
Yes, sir.
and it's just building up. So I wanted to tell you just a couple of those things that we are doing. And
If I may make a suggestion, if we clean the ditches, I'm sorry. Y'all can't hear me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If we clean the culverts out, change the culvert like you suggested, put the sump area in there like you said, but dig that right side of St. Rose, not the 0.2 of a mile that we currently have, but the whole road. That will alleviate a lot of that water sitting there. and it's all going to be gravity fed down to the second railroad track. That's a simple solution. I can get his excavator and I can dig that in a week by myself.
No, I get it, and I don't doubt that for a second. But what I'm just telling you what we're doing. We're starting at the railroad tracks. We're going to work our way up in phases.
Yes,
Again, that first phase is from there to Noto Street. You know, we've got projects ongoing. We've got a separation of a culvert behind Diane that we've been trying to fix. Look, we just did 2,000 feet of culvert on First Street in St. Rose. So it's not that we're afraid of doing it. We've got to have engineering size this up. I want to make sure we put as big a pipes that we can in there, and make sure that we maintain cover so they don't float. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is that I'm certainly not refuting. I don't have timestamps on your photo here, but I've gone in and looked at our telemetry data for our pumps. Our portable pumps show running 2 hours after the storm. Now, I'm not saying
He's exactly right. 2 hours, but it took 4 more hours after that for it to drain.
Well,
that's what I'm telling you.
Okay, so the pumps came on, and it's minute by minute here. The pumps came on at about 2:08 a.m.
Yep.
They stopped.
Yes, sir.
They came back on about 2:36, and then they pretty much stayed running from 3 a.m. Let me go here. 3 a.m. and they finally shut off and didn't come back on until 11:44. So there was some cycling in between that, but what that tells me is we got our sump back down, more water collected, it came back up, the pump turned on, sump went down. What we want to do is make sure that we can continuously feed that sump so that we never have cycling. You want that pump to come on and stay on. Me and Walter talk about this all the time. You want it to come on, stay on until you're back down to its lowest level. So I just want to let you know, I appreciate all this information. We know about the berm. We know about some of these other things you mentioned. We've got some corrective action that I think is really going to help.
Burn out tomorrow if you like.
What's that?
Burn out tomorrow.
Got to volunteer.
Hey, you're talking about all this money we spending on all these other projects. I'll do it.
Liability.
I'll pay for this.
No, I get it, and we have to, again, we're bound by rules, so that we had to permit that first pump. We're permitting the second pump. We know we are comfortable once we get that second pump in, removing the berm. We don't need you to do that. We've got a work order in on that north side ditch that's going to help water get into the Diane pump station, and then we believe that especially getting up to Noto Street in that first batch is going to alleviate a good bit of water that's coming down, and then we'll continue working up from there until we get everything done.
All right, sir.
Miss,
Projected timeline for this to happen?
I don't have that for you tonight because the permitting takes a second. We aren't in charge of the permitting. We've got to go to the state coastal use to be able to discharge additional water into those wetlands. So, the permits can take a couple of months to get. I've got your information on here. I'll follow up with you with an email on what our timeline is. Our engineering folks can probably size the pipes pretty easily, and then it's just a matter of ordering said pipes. And then in this case, we have to work with DOTD to get a permit from them to allow us to work on a state road.
Mr. Jew, a quick question, because I'd been out there when you had a large event, it's about 18 months ago or so, and the two culverts that have the sluice gates on the north side over there, the railroad, is there a chance, it seems to me that those can recycle water back into the pump, just keep on trucking. And I just wonder, could we not put some actuators on those such that, you could remotely shut those from telemetry and then stop that backflow? At least that prevents problems.
No, and we have this in months underneath Airline Highway where we can see water on the lakeside and then water on the inside of months. And then when we see that the water on the outside is lower, which is rare for us in these days, but we will open that gate. We generally will go out and physically verify it with our eyes to make sure that there isn't a malfunction, because you don't want to open it up and just start pulling water back in.
Right.
I'll tell you that the marsh on the outside has been abnormally high, and we try to get it pumped down as low as possible through Cross Bayou Pump Station. The Corps would want us to hold that much higher than we want to, or we do, but we can pump down to a -2. We can't turn the pump on at above a -2. We need it to come up about 6 inches before we can turn those pumps on. They're big pumps, and they pull water down very quickly when they prime. But when they get up a little bit, those pumps turn on. The problem you have is you don't have conveyance in the marsh. So when the marsh fills up from the water that we're pumping into it, the rainwater it's already collected, and the water that's rising in it from everything collecting in it, there is the possibility that you could get recirculation. In fact, there are culverts between 4th and Oak Street pump station that were closed off for that very reason. And so the answer to your question is yes, we can do that, but it would be one of those instances where I'd want to make sure we would probably keep them in a closed position.
You have to put eyes on it, make sure.
Keep them in a closed position, and if we
Open them.
if we can see that the level on the outside is lower, open them up and let gravity assist.
Gotcha. Thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Alford.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, council.
Resolutions. 2026-0194, a resolution endorsing a waiver from Appendix C, Subdivision Regulations of 1981, Section 3, Geometric Standards, B, Blocks 3, Arrangement, as requested by Zachary Hogan. Mr. Albert, could you please explain?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a simple two-lot subdivision resulting in two lots. A waiver is required to meet the frontage requirement for the rear lot. The department recommended approval of the subdivision and waiver. The planning commission approved the subdivision and recommends approval of the waiver as well. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll get quieted down here a little bit. File number 2026-0194 is now open for public comment. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Looks like there's no one. Seeing none, public comment is closed. Any council discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. File number 2026-0194. That passes unanimously. Okay. Next item, 2026-0210, a resolution authorizing endorsement of the Commission on Natural Disaster Risk Management and Insurance Act, and to urge Congress to consider and advance federal policy options to ensure affordability for insurance affordability and availability. Ms. Stein's not here, so either Mr. Jewell, can you address that, please?
Thank you, Chairman. This resolution continues St. Charles Parish's leadership on one of the biggest issues facing our residents, which is insurance affordability. Since 2021, homeowners and flood insurance premiums have increased dramatically despite the significant investments our community has made and continues to make in levees, drainage, flood protection, coastal restoration, and increases to building code. It has become clear that there is a systemic problem with the way disaster risk and insurance is evaluated. Communities and states with special flood hazard areas are not always being held to the same standards, and the current system does not consistently recognize local mitigation or apply risk fairly and transparently. In short, we are asking Congress to establish a bipartisan commission of national experts to evaluate the country's approach to natural disaster risk and insurance and recommend meaningful reforms that improve affordability, transparency, consistency, and recognition for communities that invest in resilience. This same proposal is also being considered this week by the National Association of Counties, which I will be sponsoring. And by adopting this resolution, St. Charles Parish joins that national conversation and continues to advocate for solutions to this national problem.
Thank you, Mr. Jewell. File number 2026-0210 is now open for public comment. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote for 2026-0210. And that passes unanimously. Appointments. 2026-0181, a resolution appointing an ad hoc member with a health professional background to the Board of Directors for the Arc of St. Charles. Council will confirm nomination to the Board of Directors of the Arc of St. Charles ad hoc member with a health professional background to fill a vacancy caused by the expiration of the term of Dr. Jeffrey S. Kyo. Probably messed that up. MD. Kyo. I'll never get that one, huh? Okay, two-year term to begin immediately and expire June 30th, 2028. Dr. Quo, right? Okay. Has served 2 consecutive terms and cannot be reappointed according to the Arc of St. Charles bylaws. However, on May 19th, 2026, the Arc board members approved for any 2025 to 2026 board members whose term of office is due to expire June 30th, 2026, be extended for up to 1 additional 2-year term. So, the nominee is Dr. Jeffrey S. Quo, MD. Please cast your vote to confirm the appointment of Dr. Jeffrey S. Quo, MD, as ad hoc member on the Board of Directors for the Arc of St. Charles. And that passes unanimously. Just an announcement, 2026-0204, a resolution appointing a member to the St. Charles Parish Communications District representing the St. Charles Parish Council. On Monday, July 27th, 2026, the council chairman will accept nominations to the St. Charles Parish Communications District to fill the vacancy created by the expiration of the term of Mr. Michael D. Heath. 4-year term to begin August 19th, 2026 and expire August 19th, 2030. Another announcement, 2026-0205, a resolution appointing a member of the St. Charles Parish Communications District representing emergency medical services as requested by the Hospital Service District Number 1. Parish St. Charles Board of Commissioners. On Monday, July 27th, 2026, the council chairman will accept nominations provided by the Hospital Service District Number 1, Parish St. Charles, Board of Commissioners representing emergency medical services to the St. Charles Parish Communications District to fill the vacancy caused by the expiration of the term of Mr. Kevin Gauthier. 4-year term to begin August 19th, 2026 and expire August 19th, 2030. Another one. 2026-0213, a resolution appointing a member of the St. Charles Parish Communications District representing the St. Charles Parish President's Office. On Monday, July 27, 2026, the council chairman will accept nominations provided by the parish president to the St. Charles Parish Communications District to fill the vacancy caused by the expiration of the term of Mr. Armin Burke. 4-year term to begin April 19th, 2026 and expire August 19th, 2030. Next, 2026-0206. Accept the resignation of Ms. Robin Robichaud, Library Service District Board of Control, District 6 Representative. Please cast your vote to accept the resignation of Ms. Robin Robichaud on Library Service District Board of Control, District 6 Representative. And that passes unanimously. Another announcement, 2026-0207, resolution appointing a member of the St. Charles Parish Library Board of Control as the District 6 Representative. On Monday, July 27th, 2026, the council chairman will accept nomination to the St. Charles Parish Library Board of Control from the District 6 council member to fill the vacancy caused by the resignation of the term of Ms. Robin Robichaud. Unexpired term to begin immediately and expire April 1st, 2027. Meetings, announcements, notices, etc. Meetings. Coastal Zone Advisory Committee, Tuesday, July 14th, 12 p.m., Council Chambers. Board of Adjustment, ZBA. Thursday, July 16th, 6 p.m., Council Chambers. Pontchartrain Levy District, Monday, July 20th, 6 p.m., Pontchartrain Levy District Headquarters, Complex, 2069 Railroad Avenue, Lutcher. Library Board of Control, Tuesday, July 21st, 6 p.m., Council Chambers. St. Charles Parish Council, Monday, July 27th, Council Chambers. Adjournment. A motion and a second are needed to adjourn, and I think everybody's glad. Mr. Commodore, and then Ms. Kiva seconds. Please cast your vote. And that passes unanimously. Have a great evening. We're officially adjourned.